Hello, divas and divos. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Diva Dailies. This is a podcast where we deconstruct divas on film, TV, and in music. I am your host, Steffi, back again. Shocker, I didn't disappear for almost a year. Before we get into things, I'm just going to throw out the social media right now for the podcast. If you want to follow us, we're at Diva Dailies Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Our social media sucks. I'm pretty sure we haven't posted anything new in over a year, but I mean, if you feel so inclined to follow us, you can follow us there. And our email address is divadailiespod@gmail.com. And since you're listening to us, or if you've been listening to us for a while now, it would really help if you rated and reviewed the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I'm not quite sure if you could do it on Spotify, but if you wouldn't mind, helping us out here, giving the podcast a rating and review, that would be really, really amazing. And then of course, don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to bring on my guest co-host for this episode. If you guys have been listening to Diva Dailies, it shouldn't be a surprise who the guest co-host is for this episode, because she is a premier Janet stan, like we have established. So Jamaican horns on cue. Enter Angie.
Enter me.
Enter
Hey,
Angie,
guys.
stage left. Well, for people who may not know, what's different about this season is I am actually uploading the full unedited version of our recording here on YouTube. So if you want to hear the full conversation and then also, see our faces, see our reactions to each other, we're there. So you can find that as of right now on my YouTube channel, in my humble opinion. But I was advised that I should probably make a separate YouTube channel to put all of this on. So there's a good chance Diva Dailies will get its own YouTube channel for this kind of stuff. The full version usually gets uploaded about like 2 to 3 days after the professional version. The edited version with all of our fun little jazzy cuts. So if you're interested, just be on the lookout there. But yeah, okay. So Angie, how are you?
I'm chill at this point. I'm happy that we're up and going.
It has been a long and winding road to finally record.
Yes.
Like there were a lot of technical difficulties on my end mainly. Let me just open GarageBand here to make sure that, yep, okay, we're recording. Very good, very good. Telling you, DIY podcast. But so you're doing good?
Yes, just I got the full week off for Thanksgiving.
Oh yes, because
So
Thanksgiving is coming up.
Thanksgiving break for the kids. So
But by the time this episode comes out, I'm pretty sure it will be uploaded on Thanksgiving. So if you celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving.
hey, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we have a lot to be
Happy
thankful
Indigenous
for.
Day.
Yeah,
Boom.
there we go. Boom. Let's reclaim the narrative.
Yes.
Like Janet.
Yes.
Boom, tie in. Well, Angie, if the people want to follow you, where can they find you on social media?
At Poetry Soul 3 on Twitter.
And
Boom.
no Instagram.
No Instagram.
She's like, well, at least not for the Diva Dailies listeners. Okay, well, with that being said, I guess we can jump into our opening segment that we do for every episode of Diva Dailies. It's our Oscar and Razzie moment of the week. And this is the part of the show where we talk about our personal high point and low point moments of the week. So, Angie, guess first, what was your Oscar and Razzie moment of the week?
It's not necessarily this week, like you said last podcast, we've been off for a year.
Yeah, we could kind of play with time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my Oscar and Razzie moment are kind of tied together.
Uh-oh.
Because my Razzie moment is my bank account has been getting hit hard.
Man. Oh
But
no.
my
The Adele
Oscar,
box set.
Listen. The Adele box set is expensive. It was like $50. Lord.
I'm not surprised.
I know. I have been obsessed with Xena Warrior Princess. It's an old school show. It was a spin-off of Hercules. I decided to watch it a few years ago for the first time as an adult and was
Okay.
obsessed.
Oh
I
wow.
got obsessed. So I go to Amazon. I wanted to get the full series on DVD.
Uh-huh.
And I found out that there is a Walmart version that has seasons 1 through 6
Right.
for $40. Looked at the reviews, they said don't get that version. If you can, get the big box sets from the early 2000s. So I said, word, let me nerd out a bit. Let me get the box sets.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, I got the box sets. Boom.
Oh, she has it right here.
Okay.
Oh, you guys need to watch the
Boom.
video version of this because she's
Okay.
showing off her DVD.
I got I think it's seasons 1 and 2. I got the full 6 seasons, but let me tell you, I forgot how much a box set costs.
Oh.
Okay, I haven't bought a box set in a while.
Yeah.
And then bad boys were ranging from $35 to $45 each season. So
Ooh.
it went from $40 for 6 seasons to easy $200 that I
Wow.
spent. Yes. And then on top of that, I nerded out on Goosebumps. So I got the Goosebumps box set. Boom.
Wow.
Like, so
this is now a haul of all of the box sets that Angie owns.
That, and the last one that I got was the Euphoria book box set. That one was pretty pricey as well, but it is the script of episodes 1 through 8 with behind the scenes interviews and all that stuff. So within the past like 2 months, I've spent a buttload of money, and that I haven't even started talking about the vinyls that I've picked up. So
You're
yeah,
like,
my bank account.
on that note, let me get the vinyls.
so many vinyls, and I've been getting a lot of like special edition vinyls.
Yeah.
Or like out of stock vinyls. I still have to go find it on Discogs or eBay or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they end up, instead of being $20, they end up costing me $60, $80. So I've been doing that. And my bank account is like, please, can you stop? Please.
Your bank account is getting hit right now.
Hard. Hard.
Man. Well, I mean, the holiday season is coming up. So these companies know what they're doing.
They do. They absolutely do.
But also Black Friday is coming up. So maybe there will be a deal.
Hopefully Cyber Monday. That's my thing.
There we go. Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday.
So I guess that's like an Oscar and Razzie moment all rolled into one.
All rolled into one.
Wow.
Because it's good, but it's not at the same time.
Damn.
Yeah.
I know the Spice Girls, for their 25th anniversary of Spice, as established in the previous episode, check that out. They did this like whole rollout where they have like cassette releases and vinyl releases, but they also have, but it's like specific, they have like versions that are specifically like for each girl. So like if you really want to be a collector and you want to collect all 5 girls, like it's like that times 5. And there are some people online that do that.
That would be me. I would do something like that.
You're like, actually, Stephanie, I have them already. Like,
let me roll it in.
Yeah. Oh my God. You're like, Victoria, roll in that truck.
I'm definitely that kind of collector for sure. I am.
I was I wasn't like tempted to like collect all 5 girls. And that's like the thing, is you feel bad that you don't get all 5 girls. Right. You're like, I have to choose just one.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about my they also released sweatshirts for Say You'll Be There. You know, the music video for Say You'll Be There. So they have like, if you want like a Mel B sweatshirt, there's that. But then of course you could always get like the full 5. And I was like, Say You'll Be There is my favorite music video. Like I want all 5, but I'm practicing self-control. I'm also telling myself, because I've been perusing the Spice Girls fan forums, because to feel a sense of community and loneliness. And and they were, I guess, like the Spice Girls, not like specifically their website, but the music company that is distributing all of their stuff is like really backlogged. So people who ordered stuff in like September like still haven't gotten it. So I'm telling
Oh my
myself, see,
gosh.
that's why you don't order this, because you're not going to get it. And I was like, so that's what I'm like telling myself to make myself feel better, even though like I know I secretly really want it.
You're gonna end up getting it.
I know, one of these days, or maybe like someone will like resell it for cheaper on like
I
eBay or
that is wishful thinking, because girl, when they resell it, it'd be way higher.
oh god.
I mean, that's how it normally is. I
Oh
mean,
man, I need to practice self-control. I
me
can't.
too.
That's what I'm telling myself. I can't. I
Definitely.
also was very tempted to get a Jerry sweater, but then I was telling myself, like, really, the first Spice Girls merch you're gonna get is a Jerry specific sweater. And I was like, but she looks so good in the Say You'll Be There music. Like, I just have like devil angel on my shoulder.
Me being the devil right now. Get both.
Yeah, you're like, get it
Get the
all.
full.
Get all 5 of
Get it
them.
all.
All of
Yes.
them. Correct. Xena Warrior, you're right. Yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess on that note, I will move on to my Oscar and Razzie moment of the week. I'll begin with the Razzie moment so we could end on a positive note. So, my Razzie moment of the week is last week I got my COVID booster shot,
Okay.
and I had underestimated how much I would feel that COVID booster shot. And honestly, it's kind of a miracle that I even uploaded an episode last week.
Really? It was
Yeah,
that
because like,
bad?
well, okay. So what happened was on Tuesdays when I got my booster shot at like, I want to say around 3 p.m. So I get it. I'm like, great. I got a $5 coupon from Target because I got it at the CVS inside of a Target. So I was like,
Right.
killing it. So then I come home and I'm like editing away. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, this episode is coming along. I got about like 60% of the way through. And at this point, it's like around 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. So it's like pretty much like clockwork. Around like 12 hours after, that's when I like started to feel like not good. Like my body was achy. My left arm was so sore that when I tried putting on my pajamas, like my arm hurt. I was like, I could barely lift
What?
it. I was like, oh my God. And I like thought like I was just exhausted and like my head was starting to not feel good. So I was like, oh, I'm just tired. I wake up the next day with like a headache, like a massive headache.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
feels like I haven't even slept. But I'm convincing myself, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're just tired. You just need to eat something. So I eat breakfast and then I go back to bed to like lay down. I wake up at around like 2:30, 3 in the afternoon. So I've like pretty
Oh,
much slept through half the day and I still have the episode to edit. Luckily, it's just like 40-ish% left, but I literally was just like in bed with my computer editing the episode, and I was like, this has to get done. And all the while, like convincing myself, like, you feel fine. You don't feel that bad. Like, you're okay. You're okay. The next day on Thursday, I finally wake up and I feel a lot better. And that's when I realized, damn, I was really going through it yesterday.
oh my gosh. What did you have that reaction the first time you got the COVID shots?
See, I don't think I was tired, but I don't know. I really just genuinely feel like I underestimated the booster because like it's
Mm,
half the dose, at
yeah,
least from
yeah.
Moderna. It's half the dose, half the dose. So I was like, oh, half the dose, I'm fine. Like my body can handle this. Like luckily, I haven't gotten COVID and all of that, but I guess not.
Now see the first time I got the dose, well,
Yeah.
my second dose, I ended up getting a tetanus shot and a TB
Oh.
shot all in the same day
Oh my gosh.
on the same arm.
Oh,
So my arm was dead to the world. I was like,
dang.
my mom asked me if I was okay. I said, I need to just get in bed. Let me
Yeah.
just sleep this off.
Yeah, right,
But
right.
the first ones, the first dose was okay.
Yeah.
Like I was just chilling.
Same.
I was ready to like go to sleep, but I was like, I'm a little energetic right now. Let me just
You're
go.
like, actually, I feel like I could run a marathon. I
Yeah,
feel like I
that's
could
what I
change
was
the world.
okay, I'm nervous now to get the booster. I mean, I'm gonna get it, but
Yeah. Angie's like, on that note, I'm not getting the booster shot. Woo! Oh my gosh. But yeah, don't underestimate the booster shot.
I
She's like,
won't. I won't.
I'm
I
scared.
won't.
But it's funny. I feel like honestly, I got COVID in November like of 2019. I'm like fairly
Hmm.
convinced I had COVID. Because remember, like, because Angie, by
Wait,
the way,
did you
what
you
were you
talked
gonna
about
say?
this, right?
I don't know, maybe we did. Maybe
Okay.
like an over a year ago.
Yeah, yeah.
But because remember, like here in like Southern California, people were like joking around, like, oh my gosh, like everyone was getting sick in November and December, and I bet you it was COVID. Like
Yeah.
I was one of those people too that got sick. And like when I got sick that time, it was like sickness that I had never felt. It was bad. Like
Wow.
I remember, oh, you want to make it even more dramatic? It was the night, it was like hours after I finished reading the Robin Crawford book.
Girl.
Yeah, like it was a really dramatic time in my life when I read that Robin Crawford book. Because
Oh,
I read that book in one sitting, and I had kind of like deprived my needs. Like I didn't really eat that day. I barely went up to
girl.
use the bathroom. So after the book, I was done reading the book, I finally went to eat a granola bar, and I was like, oh, my system feels replenished. Let me go to sleep now. And then I woke up like several hours later, and I had like chills. Like I'd
Oh
never
my
really
gosh.
experienced chills like that. And then I like
Yeah.
kind of like stumbled my way out of bed, and I was like kind of hunched over, like, I think I'm gonna throw up. I think I'm gonna throw up. I threw up the only food in my system. I go
That
back to
granola
bed,
bar.
the granola bar, RIP. I go back to bed, and like my mom is putting like lots of blankets over me, but I still have like chills. I wake up on Wednesday. For some reason, this always happens on a Wednesday. I wake up on Wednesday, and I barely, like, I have no energy whatsoever. Like even to put my, like, lift my head up was a lot. And my parents were like, you need
Girl.
to eat something. I ate one bite of a sandwich and I slept the entire Wednesday. I don't
You
remember
might have
that
had it.
Wednesday in my life. I'm like
You might
barely
have had it.
convinced. Yeah, it was really
Listen.
bad. So on that note, get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated,
Get
please.
vaccinated, wear masks, practice social, well, you could do that too. Practice social distancing, and
Wash
yeah,
them hands.
wash the hands.
Yeah.
It's tough out here. But
Yeah.
that was my Razzie moment of the week, was
Ooh,
the
that
booster shot.
booster.
Oof, it was rough. But my Oscar moment of the week was just all of the positive comments that we received for our first episode back. I truly, when I
Hey.
released the episode, I was like, no one's going to even notice that we were gone. Like, that's what I was thinking in my head. So when I posted like the link on Twitter and on Instagram, like I was really surprised that some people liked the tweet. I was surprised that some
Hey.
people retweeted it. I was like, oh, people noticed that we were gone. And then even on YouTube, some people, because like, again, we post the full version on YouTube. So
Right.
I want to read some of the comments. Like
Let's do it.
Kristen, who was a guest co-host last season, commented. Stefan, who was a guest co-host last season, commented. Al, okay, Al is such, like, he is an MVP. He said, "Did I listen to the podcast on Spotify? Yes. Am I going to watch it and listen to it again? Yes. Hearing the intro to the podcast again made me so happy. I love the episode." And like this person, Al, literally not only listened to the streaming version, but watched the full 2.5 hour version on YouTube. And I was like, oh, wow. And then another person here, Moonlight Music, I know, at least got a good way of the episode because, you know, our Spice Girls conversation doesn't happen until like, I feel like the second hour of the
Yeah.
full convo. And
Yeah.
he references the Spice Girls. He said, I love the Molly Deneen documentary that documents Jerry's identity crisis once she left the band. I can't believe it's nearly been a year since the last episode of Diva Dailies. Love to hear you both talk. And then I was like, what did I say? I said, I actually haven't seen that one yet. It's saved on my Jerry playlist, though. Yes, I do have a Jerry playlist. I actually have a Spice Girls playlist. You want to guess, Angie, how many videos are in that playlist?
Let's go with Spice Girls playlist. Okay. I'm going to say 88.
Plus 200.
Okay.
So 288.
What?
To my best,
I mean,
all organized in chronological order to my best of abilities.
Of course it is. Is this on your hard drive or is this like?
No, it's a private playlist on my YouTube channel that only I can see.
Okay.
Because we don't want to put that energy out into the world of people being like, oh my God.
She is a stan.
She's a stan. But yes, I have a dedicated Spice Girls playlist that helps me on my journey. I have a playlist dedicated to each girl. And I also have a Whitney playlist. Oh. Don't fret. She has a playlist too. I have a Michael playlist. Let me guess
how many is in your Whitney playlist.
Okay, but see, the thing with my Whitney playlist is I only started organizing it this past, like only a couple months ago. Had I started organizing it back in 2017, I'm pretty sure it would be like over 500.
I was about to say 500. I thought no, 500.
It's not. It's actually, I think it's, let me see.
It's going to be like 297.
No, it's only 168.
What?
Yeah.
For Whitney?
Yeah, but it's because like I know like there's a lot of things that I have to add, and when I was watching those things for the first time, I didn't even have this private Whitney playlist.
Got you.
But I also have a playlist called Diva Cinematic Universe, and it's basically a playlist of videos anytime a diva was like in the video together or they like mentioned each other. It's in this playlist.
Okay, girl.
And just like yourself. On that note, I'm exiting out of this conversation because
we're done. No.
Yeah, I have a lot of playlists, you guys. I have a Michael playlist too. Don't worry. But yeah, all of those positive comments, I really, really appreciated it. So thank you so much. And Angie was also shouted out several times on Twitter, on Instagram. People being like, "Oh, I'm so happy. See, I told you." You were a fan favorite. I wasn't just complimenting you.
I didn't believe you. I'm shook. Thanks, guys, for the support.
Yeah, the people really enjoy Angie. So there you go.
Oh, I feel like a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're on Diva Dailies, so
boom.
you should be. And I also love the fact too that so many of you guys really like the opening theme song to the podcast. People were like, when I heard, but I'm trying to think, how does the beginning song go for Diva Dailies? What is it? And the Oscar goes to? Yeah. Iconic. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa and I made that together. It took like a full day for us to like
get the
clips. Yeah, we had
because you have some of the most random clips within that part. Like there is one of Left Eye going Doritos, and it's like
that's actually not Left Eye.
It's not.
It's Britney.
What?
Yeah,
she sounds identical to Left Eye.
Oh, really?
And Left Eye, there is a moment where Left Eye says Doritos exactly like that. I'm gonna try to find the clip.
Okay. I like replaced the Britney. Britney stays. That was a Lisa contribution. That's how I knew when I initially like reached out to Lisa to do the podcast with me. That's how I knew I had the right person because she was giving me suggestions of like what to put in. like had I had the wrong person, this person would be like, I don't know what diva clips are. And I'm like, well, I don't know who you are, so get off this podcast.
No, get off. Get out.
Get out. We should do a game one day where people like guess who is in that opening.
Oh,
I have several there. I think some people might be surprised who's actually in there. Like I think
that's a
Whitney's
good one.
obviously
Well,
in there.
and Britney, obviously now.
Yeah. I revealed those two. Let us know, listeners. Maybe I was gonna say maybe I could do a giveaway, but I have nothing to give away. So I could give away my
your Spice Girls.
Oh no, those
Spice
are
Girls
staying.
jackets.
Yeah, no, those are staying. I don't surprisingly I don't have any Spice Girls merch as of yet, but I will one day.
Soon.
That will change. I do have a Whitney. I have enough Whitney shirts for every single day of the week.
I mean, okay, no, that's believable.
It's like in case of emergency, I don't have a first aid kit. I have a backup Whitney Houston shirt in my car.
And Amoeba Records, they have
you were telling me that.
ton of Whitney shirts now. Wow. So go to the Amoeba site.
I feel like Whitney is one of those artists. I think Whitney and Britney, I always see like shirts of those two, like a lot of them.
You know what's frustrating though? Seeing Janet adjacent shirts like Poetic Justice.
Oh my god, Angie and I have had this conversation off mic, and it is like so frustrating. Like I was telling Angie that I saw a Poetic Justice shirt that had the nerve to not only put Regina King and then the other guy on the shirt,
Joe Torre,
but then not just Tupac once, but Tupac twice on the shirt, and no Janet.
I don't know what it is because I've yet to see a Poetic Justice shirt with
Janet on it. Do you think it's like her like not wanting to have her likeness of Poetic Justice on the shirt? That's so weird. It's like really weird. It really seems like they go out of their way not to include her on the shirt. And that's what I'm like, justice for Janet! Like, I want heads! Like, I'm like gonna complain to the manager.
Like, for real though, because especially Poetic Justice, that is her, she's the main character.
Yeah,
Justice.
literally. She is Justice.
Like, there is no poems. There's no poetic situation without Justice.
Literally. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. The anti-Janet agenda was real when I saw that shirt.
Yeah, there's a lot of shirts out right now, like the TLC shirts. Say no scrubs, but it's like the Ain't Too Proud of Beg era. It's like the ooh on the TLC tip era, and I'm like, that doesn't go.
Wrong. Yeah,
there's the fan mail.
Yeah, no. Like... This is wrong. This is wrong. Yeah, it's really funny when like stans know the brand so well, and they're like, no, this is not it. Like I hate when like sometimes with like Whitney, they'll use like I don't know, it's just like off. Like, or I hate the shirts that have like 3 different Whitney eras on one shirt. I'm like, this is not a collage moment that I want in my life. It's like very strange.
Yeah, that's very Old Navy because Old Navy has been doing that. Mm-hmm. I've been wanting a TLC shirt for the longest, but I refuse to look like I'm not a big fan and just wearing anything. Like I cannot.
You're like, no. Oh, speaking of Old Navy shirts, though, I am wearing the Janet Velvet Rope shirt. I really liked this shirt.
Yeah,
and I think I was gonna say I think it's like really rare to see like a Velvet Rope Janet shirt. Like I usually see like a Rhythm Nation one.
Absolutely, it's either Rhythm Nation. I've seen a couple of All For You shirts or Control.
Okay, I've seen Control. Yeah.
The only All For You shirts that I've seen is like either it says All For You on it, just with no image.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So it's like the her signature on it.
Yeah.
Or 2, it's the basically like the cover of All For You.
Oh, okay.
But they look fan made.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them like on like official websites, but yeah. The Velvet Rope shirt, I have that one as well. I should have worn it.
We could have been matching.
But
instead you chose to wear your, what is that? The Mandalorian?
The Mandalorian. Boom.
with Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, because he's a cutie.
That's okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe next time you could wear your velvet. Well, no, that wouldn't make sense for you to wear a velvet rope shirt for our next episode that we're going to record. Well, I'm sure we will come back to Janet once again, and you could wear that shirt. Yeah.
Yes.
Gosh. Well, this is a lesson for anyone who likes to collect or anyone who's a music fan. You have to discern what merch you want to invest in, or if you're like Angie, just get the box set of all the different shows that you like.
Boom.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I guess we should move on to actually talking about the documentary.
Let's do it.
The TV episode, I guess, that we came to discuss today on Diva Dailies. Okay, now I need to scroll down on this Google Doc here. I'm like, scroll. It's okay. Not much to scroll through today on my Google Doc, ladies, because I didn't really fill it out. This is going to be a 2-woman show with Janny. Whoa, Angie and Janet. You guys, this has been a very long build up to recording. My stamina is low right now.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. The people once again on YouTube who are watching this are going to be like, holy shit, I didn't know it was this busted behind the scenes.
Not busted.
God. Okay. Well, here we go. Today on Diva Dailies, we are discussing the TV documentary entitled Malfunction, The Dressing Down of Janet Jackson. It's all for you. It's all for me.
She's trying to give you the music that she would normally insert.
Yeah. I have the balloons on the side that say Janet. Damn. Okay. Okay. Malfunction, The Dressing Down of Janet Jackson is a 2021 American documentary that focuses on the 2004 Super Bowl 38 halftime show controversy when Justin Timberlake partially exposed Janet Jackson's breast for 9/16 of a second on national television. The TV documentary explores the political and social climate of the time and how this performance affected the trajectories of both Janet and Justin's careers. This was directed by Jody Gomes, who also previously directed the Jacksons. I wrote it wrong here. It's not Jackson's An American Dream. It's Jackson's A Family Dynasty docuseries that aired, shortly after Michael died. I watched that one. It was really good. So, like I said last week, when I found out that this Jody Gomes lady was going to be directing it, I was like, okay, she knows the Jacksons. This isn't a complete outsider. But opening questions, Angie. Super Bowl. It's 2004, February 1st, 2004, I believe. Where were you when the Super Bowl happened? How old were you? Did you watch it live? Paint a picture. 3, 2, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ed.
Well, unfortunately, I was at church. Now, let me tell you.
Wow. It was a Sunday. Oh no, but at church.
I asked my dad. So at that time, I was going through it with my church. I was like, I don't want to go to church. So I already was asking my dad, hey, can I stay home? And he asked why. He definitely had asked why. And I was like, the Super Bowl. Janet's performing.
Yeah.
We ended up getting in an argument and I was forced to go. But then I had just bought an 8-hour blank VHS tape.
Whoa, Angie, take us back an 8-hour VHS tape.
An 8-hour VHS blank tape so that I could record it. So my plan was, because back in the old days, like we couldn't just hit record, show, walk away. We had to leave the TV on. You had to record it. So I was planning on leaving the TV on.
Oh my God.
Right
the logistics of it all.
Listen, I had it ready. Had it ready. But right before we left the house, he told me to turn off the TV. He said, please, let me just record it. So we got into another argument about that. begrudgingly, I turned off the TV. Now,
Oh,
mind you, church service at that time started at 2 o'clock.
what time is Janet on?
Janet was probably on four something, five.
Right. Okay.
Now,
Oh,
mind
so
you,
it was one of wait, wasn't it one of those Super Bowls? Oh, what well, time difference though? Because you know how like sometimes they happen during the day and then sometimes they
yeah,
happen during the night. That
yes,
one, it
yes,
was like dark outside. But
yes,
then again,
because
it took
it's
place in
Texas.
Texas. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, and also I went to a black church, so church services are not
Could be
just an
long.
hour, they're like 18 hours. And that day, the pastor was like, hey, we're going to talk longer because I know it's Super Bowl. And
Oh my
it
gosh.
was like one of those services. I said, Lord, please get me out, get me out. But the crazy part is, right as I walked into the house, I
Uh-huh.
got a phone call from my oldest sister.
Uh-huh.
And she, as soon as I picked up the phone, I said, hey, what's good? She said, Angie, I think we saw Janet's titty. She said it just like that. I said, now, mind you, as a huge fan, I wasn't shook because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we all done seen her breasts. Like, what's good?
r-
Like,
Right.
whether it's Rolling Stone or whatever, like, we done seen them.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't moved. She was like, no, no, no. I think she flashed us. I said, wait, huh? She was like, but I'm not sure she had TiVo. She had TiVo. She said, we're trying to figure out TiVo. We're trying to rewind it
Oh, because
so we
now
could see.
TiVo and DVR, they were starting to
It
come
was
into
just,
play.
it
It was
was
just
just,
starting.
yes.
Yes.
It was like at
Wow,
its
your
beginning.
sister's so lucky that she had I remember I really wanted a TiVo at that time, and my parents were like, "No." I didn't get it
We
until like 2010, 2011.
we never had TiVo. That's
Oh,
unfortunate.
damn.
Listen,
Wow.
the struggle was real in our
Gosh.
household. But yeah, she said it was really, really quick.
Hmm.
She didn't catch it. Um, so she's trying to rewind it to see what actually happened. So of course, as a fan, what do? I get on the computer, get on Yahoo, because Google wasn't like
Oh,
a huge, huge
Yahoo.
thing.
Oh, Lord.
Yahoo, Bing, and I'm trying to figure out what happened.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until a few hours later where like the articles started coming in, and I was like,
This is a big
oh,
deal.
yeah, yeah.
Damn.
So I didn't actually get to see it live. I didn't actually get to see it for I want to say 2 or 3 days. The actual halftime performance,
Hmm.
because again, we didn't have YouTube, so it
And
wasn't
on that
like
note, I think it's important, ladies and gents, to know that the reason why there even is a YouTube is
it's
because of
because of
this
this
event.
incident. Yes, I mean, because I was looking for it, but at that
Yeah.
time, the internet, like you had to go deep in the internet to find a clip of something.
Yeah, I
Like
think the kids today, they like literally don't like, we don't mean to sound old, but like you guys don't realize how lucky you are that
that
you have
part.
so much access to so many different things.
Yeah,
Like, man, back in the day, like the internet was not what it is now. Like
at all,
at all,
at all.
at all. So
It's
you should be
like
very lucky
it's
that
like
things are so accessible to you. Boom, right like
yeah,
that.
because
Wow.
like even now, if you look up something, you never ever usually have to go past page one on Google.
Oh yeah, it's like right there.
Like it's rare to go past page one. Back in the day, I'm on Yahoo page 26 trying to figure out something, you know,
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I didn't get to see it live.
Mhm.
Um, it was a few days before I actually saw the full performance. Um, did I see her breast though? Yes, because it was everywhere at
How
that
old? Wait,
point.
how old were you at the time? I forget if you said this, but
14.
14. What grade are you in? Eighth grade, seventh grade,
I
freshman, high
was
school?
freshman in high school. 14. Yeah, freshman in high school. No,
Wow.
I was in the eighth grade,
Wow.
about to go to the ninth.
So, what was like the conversation like at school then, especially in that age group? that kind of sounds
Well,
like a nightmare with Super Bowl, and that I
I
would not want
mean,
to be around middle schoolers. No, thank you.
but you were younger than me, so
I know, but grade 4, no one really
oh
is
well.
like talking about Janet Jackson's boob.
That's true. Wait, was it? I don't know. I was 13 because my birthday haven't happened. Yes, but uh, I don't remember tons of conversation about it. Everybody knew I was a huge Janet fan.
So were they all looking at you
So
like, damn, Janet, holy
who is
shit,
Janny? No.
Janny, damn. I did this last week too. Remember, I introduced you at one point, and I said
Yeah.
me and Janet. I think I'm just really trying to manifest meeting Janet, and then I guess you must be there with me.
Yes, because we need to make that happen.
Um, yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't remember big conversations about it. I remember it more um just in the media. Like,
Okay.
because at that point my friends really didn't like talking about
Oh,
music.
whoa! I thought you were gonna say my friends didn't really like pause. I was like, Janet, your friends didn't really
I
like
mean,
Janet. Your
I
friends.
w- the people that I was obsessed with, I talked about a lot, so they were tired of me talking
Talking
about
about Janet,
Aaliyah or TLC or Janet. So they would just
right?
be like, "Oh, it's another Janet thing, right?" But I
Oh,
just remember all of my energy was focused on the media and how everything was
okay.
happening in the media
Because you were like
versus my
really
friends.
following it.
I was obsessed with it. Like I
Wow.
was in it to win it. I
So, like, how did it feel as a Janet fan at that time, seeing the way it all played out in the media?
it was legitimately heartbreaking. Like
Oh,
I know there was tons of people on Twitter, ton of Janet stands who were like, "This was heartbreaking." It's almost like PTSD
yeah,
thinking about everything,
right.
and I hate that. Like it sounds so serious for for somebody that we love who's a celebrity, but seeing somebody who really had no bad reputation up until
Right,
that point
right.
and seeing them get dragged the way that they were, I was just like, what? And then her coming out and apologizing, and that video, she looked distressed, and I was like, Lord, this is
You're
gonna
like,
be a
you're
rough one.
distressed, I'm
this
distressed.
is about to be a rough one, let me tell you.
Oh my
you know.
God. Wow.
So
Kind of
yeah,
seems like something her older brother has experienced, honestly.
yeah, yeah,
When I was watching that video when they, Janet eventually had to go on video and apologize, and she's in that like brown suit and she just
yeah,
like looks so upset. I was like,
yeah,
Michael had to do that in the 90s. And then I'm
yeah,
pretty sure he did that again, I think in, I don't know, I feel like he's done that so many times, but like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of a similar thing where it's very, I get that feeling where it's very disheartening and difficult to watch like your fave go through
yeah,
something really, really difficult and just see that they really have like no voice in the
yeah,
situation at all. And it's just like piling
right,
one after the other. Yeah.
yeah. And
It's
then
sad.
we're gonna get to this later, but also seeing the way Justin was being treated
Yeah.
as opposed to Janet, I got upset real quick,
Hmm.
and I stayed upset for the longest, for years, still to this
So
day.
like after this, were you very like anti Justin?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I'll just say it now. I was still a Justin Timberlake fan.
Hmm.
I started side eyeing him because he started moving differently, and I couldn't put my finger as to why. I didn't have the language for it, but I was
Hmm.
like, he's doing things that I don't know. I mean, it comes back to racism and how he played into that. We'll talk about that later, but um, yeah, I just started side eyeing him. It wasn't until 2006 where I was just like, fuck Justin Timberlake.
Oh wow, in
So two
2006 is when
full
he was like
years,
really big.
yeah, but
Wow.
certain things happened, and I was like, no, I'm not rocking with him no more. But I
Wow.
was
Yeah.
Justified used to be one of my favorite records.
Hmm.
Not even on front.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. a journey that we will
I
be
know.
exploring through the course
Yes.
of this episode. Okay, well, I guess for me, let me scroll up. That's as
Let me
much
get this.
scrolling as that's going to happen this episode. Okay, so for me, I will say my initial thoughts. Oh wait, I scrolled to the wrong part.
Listen, hot mess.
Okay, let me go back. I'm
She's
sorry,
shook
Janet.
right
You
now.
deserve better. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. So for me, when in terms of when the Super Bowl happened, how old was I? Did I watch it live? Okay. I was 10 years old in the 4th grade. And I definitely was a Janet fan by this point. But like in the way that like someone I was a Janet fan, but like I was like casual, but like if I had more exposure to more of her music, it definitely could have happened.
Right, right.
But
Okay.
like I didn't have like all the albums. I think iTunes was a thing, but again, like I said last week, my parents were like one song basically a month. So I'm not gonna get Janet's discography that way. YouTube wasn't a thing, so I couldn't really like
Right.
go back and watch all of her old performances. Like when I thought of Janet at that time, it was very much like All For You, because
Okay.
All For You, I was a dancer growing up, and I remember like my dance teachers at that time used to play All For You like all the time. So I was like, All For You, yes, Janet, go work. Like that was
Yeah, yeah.
Janet for me was All For You. But in terms of the actual Super Bowl and did I watch it live, I didn't watch it live, but I do remember the next day, not at school, but when I went to dance, one of my dance teachers was talking about it and was just like, yeah, we were watching the Super Bowl live, and then we were like, oh my god, is that her boo? And that was it. Like that was pretty much like the conversation, like the adults in my life and even like my friends, like they never really talked badly about Janet.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that was kind of like for me, and I don't think I was really like yes, I liked Janet, but I wasn't like following her that deeply in the way that you were in terms of like Access
Right.
Hollywood, what are they saying about Janet? Like I wasn't really doing
Right.
I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So as I was watching this documentary, I don't think I realized like how bad it really was for Janet in those moments, because
Yeah.
I think I lived like my environment in that during that period in my life. I kind of was actually lucky because there didn't really seem to be a Janet like erasure or like Janet
Right.
cancellation. Like my parents never talked badly about Janet ever.
Right.
Like in like I'll say too, like I think in the dance community they really love the Jacksons period, but obviously they really
Absolutely.
love Janet too. And so
Yeah.
like I still heard her music like even in the years following this incident. Like she never went away for me, at
Right.
least in my life. Like I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Janet's cool. Like I didn't think she was bad because of this event. So I guess that's something that I realized while watching the documentary. I was like, man, I was lucky that I grew up in that environment. Like what during the part of the documentary where they were talking about like, you know, parts of middle America being like, Janet Jackson is a bad woman and she is like tainting our children. I was like, I cannot believe like this was the Janet narrative in some parts of America, because that was definitely not my Janet experience at all. But I will say I do have no recollection of Demita Joe. Like I don't remember that album at all. The only song I remember is All Night Don't Stop.
Well, I mean, that is a dance. Yeah, that is a
Like,
dance bomb.
yeah.
That was
We heard that all the time during
that was everywhere.
period. So I was like, yeah. I think I probably thought All Night Don't Stop was on All For You.
Oh, girl.
Like I think that's what I was thinking when I was 10. Because again,
Okay.
one song a month on iTunes. So
poor baby.
but yeah, that was my Janet. That was where my Janet fandom was at the time. And then in terms of how did I feel as a Janet fan watching what happened to Janet, I don't really remember how I felt in 2004. Like I probably didn't really feel anything, but watching this documentary, I felt like really annoyed
Yeah,
that it just
I
got
agree.
so big to the
Yeah,
like I felt like they like all of these different corporations just made this issue like a huge thing because
yeah,
of the backlash that they were receiving from quote unquote middle conservative America.
yeah,
And yeah, they just threw Janet under the bus. And I was just really annoyed watching this
yeah.
documentary, if anything. But what were your initial thoughts on the
About the
documentary?
documentary?
Yeah, now we're
Ah,
actually talking about the documentary.
well,
Uh-oh.
I was annoyed.
Were you
Um,
annoyed at the documentary or annoyed at like just the Super Bowl incident?
both, both.
Oh, okay, you were annoyed at both.
Yes.
Okay.
One, so I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like the documentary.
Yeah, I put here in my notes underwhelming.
It was absolutely underwhelming. It was like, let me say this. It's good if you didn't know anything about it.
Like didn't know anything,
It's
period.
period. Boom.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a fan, even a slight fan, you're gonna be like, oh, this is nothing new. We
That's
knew
the
all this
thing. It was
information.
nothing new.
So,
So then I
and
was like, why are we bringing this up again if you have nothing new to present?
that part, and then on top of that, what really pissed me off was the people, the dude from the Grammys saying, "Oh no, we didn't disinvite her." Like it was a bunch of, it started being lies, and
Yeah.
so I was annoyed. And then I'm just gonna preface this, y'all. I'm about to talk about race a lot today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but seeing the white ladies, the white women,
Oh my
especially
gosh.
old girl who's teared up and was like, "Oh my god, it was so much." I was like,
Yeah, I was like,
"Oh my
okay,
god,
I was so annoyed. I think her name was like Sally or something. The one wearing the
girl,
red blouse.
girl."
Red blouse.
I was so annoyed.
I don't know what her full name was. I know, I'm pretty sure her name was Sally, but I don't know the last name. But yeah, she was so like, I understand maybe this idea of like people who worked really hard on a production and them wanting it to be really good. And when she got that initial phone call thinking like she was going to get a congratulations, like, oh yeah, it was so good, but it ended up being like completely different. Like I get that disappointment, but for her to kind of like victimize herself in such a huge way to the point of tears, I was like, you know
Girl,
who
bye.
was really victimized? Janet.
Oh my. And then, yeah, so that really, really pissed me off. Like, I was rolling my eyes. I almost wanted to turn it off. Like, child, please.
You're like, scratch the
Uh,
episode.
literally, two more things. I didn't know it was an episode of a series. I thought it was
Oh,
a standalone doc,
oh,
which I should have known better
because
because
it was like
Britney
framing Britney
Spears,
Spears was similar.
yeah. Um, but three, the lack of Black people talking about this incident.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that.
I was like, why? I don't want to hear from this white man. Why is he speaking right now? Why is this white woman crying about what happened to her? I don't want to hear this. Like,
And maybe that also could be that is also kind of like indicative too of just the people who were involved in these corporations. That's not something that's
yeah,
like explicitly stated or like something that they explicitly say like, see, don't you notice how there's only white people that work at these major corporations? But
but it was obvious.
that's like something there too. Like really the only Black people or people of color were the music journalists that were kind of
Yeah,
like side commentating. And
yeah,
for me personally, those people were my favorite parts of the
exactly.
documentary. Like Chris Melanphy, who I freaking love. He has a podcast, like go listen to it. I think it's called Hit Parade. If you guys are huge music fans,
Oh,
listen to Hit Parade. He has that
that's a great
podcast.
podcast.
Um,
Yeah,
Daniel Smith, who is like one of my favorite music journalists. She's actually half Black, half Filipino, by the way.
that's the
Very
chick
cool.
who did Billboard, right?
Yeah,
She
she
was
was the
the.
editor in chief. I think, yeah, editor in chief of Billboard. I know she has like credentials at Billboard, but she was also like huge at Vibe magazine.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay,
like
yeah, yeah.
she was there. Who else? I think Jenna Wortham of the New York Times was there as well.
Yes.
Like she was great.
Hmm.
Torre was there. I'm very like hot and
Correct.
cold with Torre. Sometimes he says things and I'm
Me
like,
too. Me too. I'm with you. No, I'm with you.
but he was there. And then Another guy, his name is Alan Light.
Yeah.
He was great. Like for me, like I'm sure like Angie can relate to this. Like I grew up watching a lot of music specials, and all of those people were in the music specials that I watched growing up. So I was like, oh my god, reunion. But
but
they were
even
really the
then,
only
like,
good parts of the documentary for me.
and they were the tiniest parts.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about all these people, but who was the young lady who was in it the most?
I think, was she the one with the glasses?
Yes.
I think that's Jenna Wortham. She has a podcast too, by the way. It's called Still Processing with another guy. You guys should listen to it. It's good.
Shout out.
Yeah.
But she had the most screen time. Literally everybody else had 30-second clips.
Yeah. I was wanting to hear more from Danielle Smith. Because
me too.
Because like I just feel like genuinely, I think the way Danielle Smith talks about and breaks down like these cultural pop moments is just so poetic justice.
And it's mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's like just the way she describes things, and like her analysis is just like always so on point. She wasn't in it enough for me.
Right.
Listen to her podcast though. It's called Black Girls Songbook. It's really good. I feel like it's actually, I feel like if we knew each other, me, Danielle Smith, and I'm really boosting myself up here, but like I really feel like Diva Dailies and Black Girls Songbook are like cousins, like very much in the same, like just talking and celebrating women. Hers is specifically like Black women in music, but like obviously we've done that a couple of times here on this podcast. So if you like this podcast, you should listen to her podcast as well. But like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was very what's the word? It's just, it didn't hit. It didn't hit like it was supposed to.
As the kids would say, it wasn't giving.
It wasn't giving. It wasn't
giving.
No, it was not given at all. And I said this before in the last podcast. I wanted them to talk about what happened racially. And when I tell you, it took like, they went over it for like 2 minutes. And I said, for real? This is what we're doing? I mean,
yeah, they kind of like glazed over it.
I mean, whew, like it came and went with the quickness. And again, we were seeing another crying white person. And I was like, I don't care for this documentary at all. I just don't.
Like, I think for me, the thing too was like, okay, you want to make a documentary about this incident, and you as the documentarian, like you're in a place of privilege where you have access to these people. And I felt like the documentarian wasn't like, she wasn't challenging or holding these people accountable in any way. It's like she just took what they said at face value and then she moved on. And it's like, no, like you have these people here. Why don't you like question or challenge them? And I felt like, at least for me, when I compared this documentary to like, what was the Britney Spears one called?
That's a good question.
I forget.
Wasn't it? It wasn't free Britney Spears?
No.
That's doing digging right now.
We're going to cut this part, by the way, in the audio version, but the YouTube version, you're seeing it all happen live, girls.
Spears.
Framing Britney Spears.
Framing Britney Spears.
I knew it began with an F. Okay. Anywho, if you compare Framing Britney Spears with this documentary, I felt like that one was way more damning, and they really made like all of those people feel uncomfortable, and they asked them uncomfortable questions, and it was like awkward silences of like, yeah, see, you do know like what you're doing is bad. But here it's like they just ask these people like, you know, question, they give a response, and then that was it, and then they cut to the next thing. And it's like, no, I want these people to have to answer right now. Like I want heads to roll. I want heads to roll, and the heads weren't rolling in this.
They weren't shaking. They were just
they were just there.
Chill, like
not even a tilt. Like you have to, the wind has to blow really hard for there to be even any visible movement. I really felt like she let these people get off the hook too easily.
Absolutely. I 1,000,000% agree, especially Les Moonves and Justin Timberlake. We're gonna get to that later, but there was just a lot of things, and even the way that they set up the documentary,
Mhm.
it almost felt like they were again pointing the finger at her while painting the picture that she was a victim, but at the same time, especially the white chick who was crying. I need to figure out her name. It doesn't matter
Her
actually.
name is Red
No, I don't
Blouse.
get
Red Blouse. She wears
red
the red
blouse.
blouse in the documentary.
Listen, because even the way that she was talking about Janet, like, oh, Janet fled, she was sobbing and she fled, but had she like told us what happened, she would
Yeah.
be in a different situation. Like, girl, no.
That was
Like,
that seemed to be like the recurring response to everyone was like, Janet fled, Janet was nowhere to be found, Janet had nothing to say. And it's like, so then in the back of my head I'm like, that's my thing, is why are you presenting this documentary if you have nothing new to say? Like, I like,
exactly.
genuinely, there are Twitter threads that are a lot more informative than this documentary. So after I finished like
I'm
watching this hour and 10-minute documentary, I was like, I could have read a Twitter thread that was more informative and probably no holds bar. I don't know, like, because this is like an FX Hulu New York Times presents, like, we have to think, like, I'm sure these major corporations don't want to piss people off, so it kind of still seems like people, like, these companies are covering for each other still, which I find like really strange because it
yeah,
like happened so long ago. And yeah, it's just like that, like, they kind of kept like dancing around
yeah. Oh, for sure.
the situation. And obviously, like, I assumed Janet wasn't going to be a part of this documentary, and that's fine.
Yeah,
But you really do feel like she's missing because you just have all
exactly.
of these different people saying, we don't know where she went, she fled, next. And it's like,
Right.
well, I don't know what to do with
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. And on top of that, um, it seemed like they didn't want to blow up the situation and like get the fans riled up. That's what it seemed like. Because
Mm,
the fact that they didn't even talk about anything post 2004, they make it seem like there was, even when they were talking about the like her being banned and blackballed, like it was like, oh, maybe she was, I don't know. And when Tito got, listen, when Tito got on that
Tito
screen,
time. It's Tito time.
I was hot that he said, oh, I don't know if I would call it blackballed, but something was like, sir, you
Okay, see,
saw
this
it.
this is the thing with the Jacksons. This is what I will say about the Jacksons. They kind of, I don't think, and I think this is something that hasn't served them well in the long
Yeah,
run. I think the younger generation, like the children of the main Jacksons, are a lot better at doing this. But the Michael Janet era Jacksons, they kind of like to, quote unquote, like, play it safe. They still try to be like
right.
respectable and very polite.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I want heads to roll. I want heads to
Roll.
roll.
I want them all to roll. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I was so upset when Tito started talking. I was just like, don't, if you're not gonna like really condemn this act, I don't really want to hear from you. No
Right.
shade.
Right.
No shade to
I
Tito.
wonder
But
if
I was like,
they should have gotten Latoya. Maybe Latoya would have been like, with, and then gotten her a
like,
little magnifying glass and been like,
I mean, they I felt like they were going good with 3T, Tito's
oh my god.
kids.
Okay, wait. Can I just say, when one of them was like, yeah, Auntie Janet, when he just like,
Yeah.
anytime they refer to them like Uncle Michael, Auntie
Yeah.
Janet, Auntie this, Uncle, I just like, I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
they really are aunties and uncles. It's so cute. I love it so much. Auntie Janet. You're an aunt, Janet.
You're a mess.
Oh my god. I was like, I think I like actually started tearing up. I like had to pause that part. And I was like,
In
Auntie.
that one moment.
Yeah, I was like, Auntie
Oh my gosh.
Janet.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man.
But even then, like, why did you have 3T on
For like one
for
scene.
one scene?
And I don't even
I
think the other one spoke.
No,
He was just really
he
nice to
just was
look
like,
at. Yeah.
yeah, he's cute. I
Yeah.
will say he
Yeah.
is cute. Um, but yeah, the documentary itself was so underwhelming for me.
Hmm.
Um, it just made me more pissed off with the narrative
Hmm.
that's being told around the Super Bowl
Hmm.
because there was so much that happened. Um, there was so much left out. Uh, I felt like they could have done so much more,
Yeah.
and I hope Janet will reveal or give us an insight of something.
That was my thing. Like after it finished, I was like, well, I want Janet's documentary now. Like,
Yeah,
because again, it just really felt like while you were watching this, it felt like so empty because she wasn't in it.
yeah,
And that's like kind of the annoying part about, I guess, making a documentary when the person you're making it about isn't involved. Like, you really do feel like their presence is missing.
yeah,
But this is one of those documentaries where like you really, really wish, like, even if it wasn't Janet, like I wish someone from Janet's like circle, like the only person I really felt like in any way was really giving support was, I mean, the Jackson family, wishy-washy, but
yeah.
like the Virgin Record person,
Oh, yeah.
when he was like,
Shockingly, I was
yeah,
shocked.
like we were ready to, like, do Demita Joe, blah 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 blah. But like other than that, like I really genuinely cannot think of anyone who was involved in that situation at that time, like was in that camp, that really spoke spoke up for Janet, or like spoke on behalf of Janet, spoke in support, aside from like the outside journalists who can
Yeah,
analyze everything.
and they were only given 30 seconds a clip. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was just I was disappointed. And honestly, it was like an hour by minute. I would say like 39 minutes in, 40 minutes in, I want to turn it off because
Mm.
it just felt like I wasn't going to get anything new from
Yeah.
it. So I was just
Yeah.
like, no need to rehash all these feelings I got about the
Right.
situation. It's just
Yeah.
going to frustrate me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know, I feel like no shade to the people who do documentaries on YouTube, because there actually are really nice, well-made documentaries by like regular people on YouTube, but like this could have
Yeah,
been something that someone did on YouTube.
absolutely. Oh, and can we just talk about those damn YouTube clips that they use?
Oh my god, I was like, these
That
aren't
was so
high
blurry.
quality.
Oh,
You couldn't restore.
and it's got like the YouTube handle in the
Yeah,
corner. I
that's so
said, "Oh my
embarrassing.
gosh!"
Oh my.
And on top of that, even like what pissed me off is when they started showing Velvet Rope clips, and I was like, "Y'all couldn't pay for the DVD? Like, you could get the DVD
Yeah, I'm like, don't you have a
on
budget
eBay
for
right
this?
now. Like, the All For You clips, like you can find HD. I have HD clips of this.
You're like, you
I'm
could have
just a
emailed me.
like I feel like any Janet fan can get you a HD footage of almost everything that I've seen. I'm like there were so many interview clips where I was like, I've seen that on YouTube in better quality.
Hmm.
Like, why did you guys use this version? It just seemed lazy too.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, I don't know. I felt like I could have done a better
Yeah,
Super
you could have.
Bowl. You know what? Thank you. I should just
You
do
should do it. You should do it. Put it on your YouTube channel. What's your YouTube
like
channel again? Let's plug.
Sleepy Nerd Productions.
Yeah, like
Boom.
honestly, oh my god, I almost called you Janet again. What?
Janny, where's Janny?
That's Janet and Angie's ship name now. Janny. um, yeah, Angie could have done a better documentary about this event, because
I should do it.
it makes me wonder too, like, and that's the thing, maybe like I went in going, because this person worked with the Jacksons previously, I'm thinking
Yeah,
like she really knows the Jacksons
that's
trust her, blah 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 blah. So maybe I had the wrong expectations. I'm like, are you, maybe you're more of a Jermaine fan. What's your
like
name? What's her name? Jody Gomes. Maybe you're more of a Jermaine
yeah.
fan. Maybe you're not. I know there's 9 of them. Also, I was
Listen,
reading a review, and one of them, the whoever wrote this article, was like, Janet, the youngest of 10. I was like, no, she's not the youngest of 10. She's the youngest of 9. What is
Lord,
this?
like You know, what's funny was I was going to watch it on Friday,
I watched it on
and
Friday.
I was going to do the same thing. Started seeing Janet Stans
Be like,
be upset
no,
about it.
no. Oh,
And so I was just like, I don't feel like, let me just take an Adele today and then I'll do everything else. So I sat and watched it last night for the first time. And I
oh,
just
that
was like,
late.
yeah. I mean, because I'd seen clips of it and all the clips that I saw was pissing me off,
Yeah.
like in the worst way.
Uh-huh.
And the big Janet stands were just like, yeah, this is bullshit, basically. So
Uh-huh.
I had no desire to watch it at that point.
Right.
But I did it. I took one for the team. Boom.
I like really was like super close, like debating whether this was even worth talking about, honestly, for Diva Dailies. Cause I was just like, it's not giving. Like as the kids say, I was like, I don't really know what else there is. I think, and okay, so for people who, may not know the behind the scenes, every time I do a Diva Dailies episode, I send my guest a template and I say, okay, this is the segments we're gonna do, we're gonna fill it out, blah, 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 blah. Every single episode up until this point, hand over my heart, over Janet's face here, I always fill out the Google Doc. This is the first time I really didn't fill it out, and I think it's largely because I just didn't really know what there was to say about this
Talk about it. Yeah.
documentary, because I don't know. I feel like, again, a Twitter thread, a Google search, like
Anything
could
would
have
have been better.
sufficed. Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Talking about notes is like all my notes that I have has nothing to do with the doc.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
Like it's everything that was not in the doc that I felt like should have been in the doc. But I was like, there is nothing new in this document. Like it just really, really, really pissed me off.
Yeah. So
Just
for anyone who is interested in watching this documentary, if you do know something about it, if you know something about this event, maybe skip this one.
I would recommend to skip it for sure.
I will say
That
though,
would be
the end when they showed Janet in her mask, I thought that was really funny.
I some of the edits didn't make any sense either.
I was like, why are they putting this? Like, there's children dancing. So
yeah, the Control 35. I said this doesn't make any sense. Oh, okay. All right. We'll just have
I feel like what they were trying to do by the end was like, because like by the end of the documentary, they show like the downfall of Les Moonves and like, oh, he's actually like a really bad guy and assaulted all these people. Me too, me too, me too. And then it was Janet winning, getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she's like, induct more women, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I wish she like lifts her hand. And her, like, she has like this very like glazed look, and she's like, rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I want you induct more women, please. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, induct more women.
You sound like a character off of the Boondocks. That's what you sound like.
I have to do the Janet voice. I do this with Michael too. For the Janet stands who will maybe get upset with my Janet impressions, don't worry. None of the Jacksons are safe from impressions in my household. But yeah, it's induct more women. And then it's like they show Janet, like, I don't know, it looks like she's like roaming the street. It's a vertical video that maybe they downloaded off of her Instagram story. You know what would have been really
and there's
funny?
so many videos that they could have downloaded. Like,
you know what would have been really funny though is if they included that video of her this past weekend randomly walking
filming her shoes.
That would have been so funny. She's like not even in the video. You just hear, Preston, you're so silly. Preston, get back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't know.
It's just yeah. I don't know what more to say about all that. But it just I would recommend it for people who don't really know much about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you know about it, it's not worth your time at all. I don't think so.
Yeah. maybe if you're like Gen Z or you were really young at the time and you don't remember, haven't read a Janet Twitter thread, maybe you can watch this. But I genuinely like, I don't know, it just made me want the Janet documentary like now.
I agree.
Janet should have like honestly uploaded her documentary onto a unlisted link on YouTube and sent it to Janet Stans, and then it could have gone viral. And it's just like
viral.
Yeah, and then it's just, this is my side of the story. Oh, I have a question though for you. Concerning the trailer for Janet's documentary. Did she re-record her control vocals for that documentary? Because you know how they play like a little bit of control. It sounds like it's her. Like, it doesn't sound like her on that record, or like even her when she was younger. It kind of sounds like older Janet. Oh God, I really hope she re-recorded her. I feel like that's so powerful.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it now.
How old is Janet now?
Is she like 50, 55? No, well, she's older than that.
I don't know. In any case, I think that's a really powerful like idea of older Janet singing those lyrics that meant so much to her in her early 20s, now as like a 50-plus-year-old woman, considering everything she went through. I really hope she recorded the vocals of Control for 55. That trailer. 55-year-old Janet singing lyrics from Control, still relevant to her and her career after everything she went through. Honestly, that trailer for the documentary did more for me than this hour 15 of Malfunction, the dressing down of Janet Jackson.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's just unfortunate that there was this buildup around it and nothing was really said, and people were lying within the documentary. And like the Grammy Awards, I really was pissed off. I was like, why are you guys talking right now? She said that she was just like uninvited. Patti LaBelle said it. Like, what are we doing right now? I don't get it. Yeah, it was just a hot mess. But
would you like to share your notes now? Because I can see Angie is glancing at the notes.
Let's get it.
Okay, so this is now the Janny show. The Janet Angie 2-woman show. Angie is going to just, premiere Janet Stan here. She's gonna share the receipts, break it down for us. What did the documentary not cover that you wanted them to talk about?
I mean, a shit ton. I'm not going to cover.
Oh wait, before we begin, I just want to say, as a side note, like the first 10 minutes of them talking about Janet's career.
Yeah.
I was so freaking hyped during that 10 minutes. I was like, oh, Janet is amazing. I was like literally like dancing in my seat. I was like, Control. I was like, oh, now we're in the Janet era. Yeah, like I was so excited. I was so hyped.
But
I was like, I'm gonna watch Janet videos after this.
It caught me off guard because they talked about her career for like 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was caught off guard because I was like, okay, this is only an hour. How long are they going to talk about the incident? It's a whole documentary.
And then you did the math and you were like, oh, the reason why you spent so much time talking about her career is because you really had nothing to say or nothing to add. So that's why you just kept using, you were on Wikipedia looking Janet's greatest hits and doing a montage.
Exactly. With YouTube videos, a montage of YouTube videos.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, Angie, take it away. What do you want the people to know?
Also interject.
Yeah.
If you feel like I'm talking too much or whatever, just interject.
Okay. Maybe I'll raise my hand in this in this Zoom. Raise hand and then don't forget lower hand.
But there's a lot that the documentary missed. I'm not going to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
I'm only going to talk about like 3 main parts, which is the government's role. They didn't talk about they talked about it a bit in relation to the FCC, but they really didn't talk about how it influenced American politics. Like it was a catalyst to American politics. I'm gonna be talking about race, and I feel like I'm talking to class right now. Like
I know, that's why I was like, I was like kind of laughing. I was like, wow, today class, good morning.
Today class.
I'm going to be talking about race. Get your pen
But
and paper out.
it's like, especially, I feel so passionate about it because when we talk about our Black legends, oftentimes we don't talk about context.
Yeah.
We're like, we talk about our Black legends in a vacuum. And when I say we, I'm not including Black folks in particular. I'm talking about like white people, how they receive our Black legends. It's so often lacking context. So when we talk about Janet and you don't talk about how huge racism, like how huge racism was in relation to that situation, and then you're like, oh, you're just overreacting. It's like, no, we're not, or anything like that. But I also want to talk about Justin Timberlake capitalizing off the Super Bowl because the way that they didn't even talk about that pissed me smooth off.
It was a very like quick montage of
yes,
Justin being like very smug, like, oh,
yeah,
like, oh, I've been really going through it these past couple days. Like that sort of thing.
It was the 2004 clips, the week of the Super Bowl, and nothing else. And what people don't understand is that he has been hyping this situation up for years. Like the latest one was 2018. We could talk about his actual Super Bowl too, but all those years, But first, I think people really need to understand how big or how influential the Super Bowl was to Bush getting reelected.
Yeah.
Because in 2004, basically Bush was not in good graces with the public. We were in a war, and we were watching the war live on television. This was like the first war that we were sitting every day. We were watching the US bomb the shit out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Also, by this time, we're 2-3 years out of September 11th. Folks were now trying to figure out why we were in the Middle East. Folks are dying. Tons of people are dying. Why are we in the Middle East? And why is Osama bin Laden doing TikTok videos in caves and sending them back to the US when he's supposed to be dead, right? This is like, these are the questions that are happening.
You guys, apparently it's alleged that Osama bin Laden was really obsessed with Whitney Houston, and there's like a running joke on Stan Twitter that he was bumping to Whitney Houston in the caves. Did you not know that Osama bin Laden was obsessed with Whitney Houston?
No.
Angie! People were like, I don't know how true like his obsession went, but like I've read that it goes so far that like he wanted to kill Bobby Brown. And like so he could marry Whitney Houston. And like there's this crazy, I kind of alluded, I think I might have included this in the Mariah episode, but like Stan Twitter, of course, making jokes of everything was like, because you know how like Glitter came out on the same day as 9/11. So like people were like, since Osama is such a Whitney stan, he probably planned 9/11 on the Glitter's release. Obviously, you guys who are listening to this, that's not true, but that's just Stan Twitter being crazy and funny. But like, yeah, allegedly, Osama bin Laden was a really big Whitney Houston fan and loved her so much. And there's jokes that he listened to Whitney in the caves when he in the 2000s.
I am legitimately shook.
See, the divas, they're all connected, you guys. Divas Cinematic Universe. Try and find that on any other podcast you listen to.
I can't like imagine him playing I'm Every Woman. The irony.
Yeah. I I have nothing.
Oh,
Yeah. It's not right, but it's okay.
just
It's not right. Like
Heartbreak Hotel.
yeah. I mean, he just resonates with her discography in a way.
Oh, that's random.
Yeah.
That I love that. I love that tidbit though.
Sorry, I just had to include the divas in this narrative because
no, that's perfect.
yeah, this is Diva Dailies.
But,
this is the podcast you're listening to.
but while Osama bin Laden was making Whitney Houston TikToks and sending them back to the US, like I said, the masses were kind of going against Bush at that time.
Yeah.
And so conservatives were trying to figure a way, because it was election year, how was he going to get everybody back on his side? And so it started simmering in was it October of 2003, the VMAs.
That sounds like when the VMAs would be. Yeah.
When the whole Madonna, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears kiss.
Right. Yeah.
When that happened,
divas.
there started becoming an uproar about moral values. And Howard Stern was starting to be put in that conversation. Real World there was, I guess, a threesome on Real World, and it was becoming crazy. So these conservatives were low-key losing their brain. And once the Super Bowl hit, they were like, boom, perfect. This is perfect for, the moral values campaign. So what ended up happening is the first couple of days, there was like pushback, but there wasn't that much pushback. By like day 3, we saw the politicians really forming, and they're like, okay, we're going to start using this as a campaign.
Right.
Like trigger words, basically. We're going to keep referencing Janet and how, she just exposed herself, all of that. And ultimately, the moral values campaign ended up being a key factor to getting Bush reelected. They said about 30% of people who voted for Bush, the key thing that they were voting on was the moral values. Wow. So it ended up being a huge like talking point from the Super Bowl. And it's one of the biggest reasons why Janet kept referring to the war. So if you go back to 2004 and you see interviews, she's like, well, there's bigger things like the war. She kept referring back to the war because that was a huge conversation that was happening at the time.
Right.
And, people were just like, man, fuck that war at that point,
Yeah.
So
you want to talk about your breast, Janet?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which ultimately, as a journalist, I would feel stupid if a pop artist was like, hey, why are you focused on my breast and you're not doing your journalism thingy and talking about this war?
Right.
Like,
it's like your priorities.
Exactly. I would feel so embarrassed, but of course, America and just being trash. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's new?
Trash. Exactly. Also, people don't realize that the FCC came for her. That was kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Yes. They didn't talk about how long that lawsuit lasted. It lasted until 2012.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So 2012, they ruled in favor of CBS and Janet. I think the fine was like $500,000, something like that. But it ended up all the way to the Supreme Court. It was pretty long, pretty bad.
I think they did say, I might be remembering this wrong. I'm not quite sure if they said it ended up at the Supreme Court, but I know at the very least they did mention that Les Moonves wanted at one point Janet to pay the fine.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too that they really didn't talk about. This is kind of off topic but on topic, was the extent of like her blackballing. Um it was huge. Like they made it sound like, oh, her record just didn't get played on a few stations. Like, no, no, no. Uh she was literally blackballed from Clear Channel Radio.
Well,
Period.
the documentary made it seem like, see, this, they're so wishy, the documentary stance on this is just kind of so wishy-washy. They made it
Yeah.
seem like these corporations weren't necessarily told like ban Janet, no Janet, but they made it seem like these corporations had a choice, and this
Yeah.
is the choice that the corporations made, not because they wanted to, but in response to middle America.
Right.
That's the narrative I felt like this documentary kept pushing. Like, don't blame these corporations, blame the angry conservative people that were so upset.
Right.
And it's like, well, you as a major corporation, like, you should take a stand. And you decide, you did take a stand, but you decided to stand with the angry conservative people.
Exactly.
And you completely threw this like single person, this Black artist, this Black woman under the bus, and you're blaming her for everything and saying like, oh, well, you know, she's not saying anything, so I'm clear. That's what the documentary did.
And also, it's like they bring up Les Moonves and they talk about his personal vendetta against Janet.
Yeah.
Without really acknowledging that he was the head of CBS Viacom, and all the things that she was banned from was under Viacom.
Right.
Like, and Viacom owned almost everything. Like, so much of the industry, you know?
Yeah. I feel like their breakdown of like the corporations, like, I think they do mention it, but it's like, unless you really know, you really don't know. You're kind of, it's just kind of like glazing over your head in a way. Like, I agree. I wish they kind of like really made the viewer understand like just how powerful this Les Moonves guy was. I think they tried setting him up as like some sort of like godfather figure where you have to like quote unquote like kiss the ring, and like that's what Justin Timberlake was doing because he was scared and whatever. But yeah, see, these pockets need to be filled, these holes need to be filled.
And I think as a listener, I would implore you guys to just, even if it's Wikipedia, go to Wikipedia and see what Viacom owns right now.
Yeah.
See how many radio stations they own. And it's not like small radio stations in Montana. These are like the biggest radio stations in the country. This is MTV. This is VH1. This is huge stuff. And this is before Viacom owned BET. Because had Viacom owned BET, she would have been nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, she absolutely would have been nowhere. But yeah, the setup for Les Moonves, it could have been so greater.
And also like the thing too with like radio stations, like I think what the documentary, especially if they're trying to tell this story for younger people who weren't around during that time, like radio stations they mattered in the 2000s in the way that everything. they don't matter. I mean, maybe not that they like don't completely matter, but it's like you have streaming services, like listeners have a choice of what music they want to engage in. Whereas back then in the 2000s, like, yeah, you had your CD player, but it's not like the same as streaming now. Like artists back then really relied on radio. So if you're a major artist and you're banned from radio, what are you going to do? And that's something that they didn't really like emphasize. It was more of like, yeah, and then this happened. And then this happened too. And it's like, no. You're telling a story. You need to like really punch the emotion in so we understand the gravity of the situation.
Right. And again, going back to, we need to put our Black icons in context. As a Black artist, to cross over, the conversation even around crossing over.
Yeah, that was kind of really like glazed over in the beginning.
Exactly. And I think what we need to have an honest conversation about is how racist this industry is. The music industry is so segregated, still one of the most segregated mediums of entertainment to this day. You know, it is so segregated. We see it at the Grammys when, or we saw it at the AMAs when acts like Doja Cat gets put in urban R&B. It's like she's a pop artist, you know.
Right.
But especially for artists like a Michael, a Janet, a Whitney, Prince. I mean, Whitney's kind of anomaly because she went back to R&B, the rigid, you know,
Yeah,
confines of R&B.
oh my god, I almost called her Britney. Lord
Okay,
have mercy. Yeah, Whitney. Yeah, Whitney's situation is kind of like tricky because like she was so heavily criticized by the Black community. There was at one point she felt the need to like kind of not disown, but like renounce her mainstream crossoverness in order to win back her Black audience. She kind of stayed there till the end, really. But
whereas the other three, they were trying to figure out not necessarily how to cross over, they just wanted to be in that space. Hey, I want to be on MTV too. And it's not to like pander to the white audience. It was just, no, this is a big market. We should be there too, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting this like conversation about like crossing over because so many people like, you know, it could be a bit of a touchy subject, but I do think there is power in crossing over. Like it is important for mainstream spaces to be filled with Black artists, to be filled with people of color artists. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of like this like sad struggle in a way that it's something that Black artists, brown artists, they kind of struggle with this idea of like crossing over because it's like if you cross over, are you renouncing your community? Are you trying to separate yourself from your community? Whereas like, you know, obviously white artists, that's not something that they have to think about at all. But yeah, I felt like that part was glazed over a bit too. I was looking at my phone though, while you were talking a little bit there, because it was funny. Before I had watched this Janet documentary on Friday, I watched this other documentary. It was from the BBC and it was about Leanne from oh my gosh, what's that girl group? The one, you know, that the Jessie girl just came from that group, the one that was like Black Day. What is the name of that?
Mix?
Oh, Little Mix. Yes. Okay. Little Mix. Okay. So there is a documentary. Do you like how that was my reference? Black Day. Black Day.
Bruh.
That's so sad. Like Little Mix, I'm sure has like great music, but the first thing I think of is Black Day.
Hot mess. That is a hot mess on your app.
Anywho, okay, so I watched this documentary that Leanne from Little Mix had made, I believe, in 2020, so last year, released through the BBC, and it's called Leanne: Race, Pop, and Power, and it's about her as a Black artist, like in during the height of like the Black Lives Matter movement, really understanding like, wow, the music industry is racist. And like, have you seen that documentary?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, you should.
I've heard about it though.
It's really good. Like it opens with her and her bandmates like kind of backstage, and they're gonna like surprise fans, and like they ask the fans like, oh, like who's your favorite girl and in the group, and like, you know, one person will, and usually these fans were white, they'll say like, oh, this person's my favorite, this person's my favorite, this person's my fave. No one said Leanne. Dang. And the host had to be like, you know, you're my favorite, and like Leanne had to say like, oh no, it's okay, but then they cut to her like talking about that incident, and she's like, yeah, it like really hurts, it really sucks, like being the only Black girl in this group, and it's a struggle to navigate. And then you just like start thinking of like other girl groups where there was only like one Black girl, like Mel B from the Spice Girls. I'm sure it was really tough in the 90s to navigate like what is that like. And then you just think of like Black artists in general, like what it takes for them to navigate the music industry. So I was
Yeah.
really heated after watching that documentary and then going to watch the Janet documentary right after.
You're just
I was
like,
like,
oh.
put it all down. Heads will roll. But you should
But
watch
see,
it, Angie.
I think
I'll send you the link.
I will. I will
Yeah.
definitely watch it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But piggybacking off of that, it's like this is an important conversation to have around the Super Bowl, because when we talk about the after effects, when fans talk about the after effects, it's not just about this one incident. It's about how racist everything was around it, you know?
Yeah.
How suddenly we have this huge pop artist who kind of figured out the crossover equation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Figured this out. She was just as popular in Black spaces as she was in white spaces.
Totally.
She knew how to navigate this, the crossover space. And then suddenly, boom, overnight, you don't have that access anymore. So what happens to this artist who is not constricted to the traditions of R&B and hip hop? And now you're like shoved into these spaces. And not to say that she didn't know how to make music for Black audiences, because she did.
Yeah.
She just wasn't that kind of artist in the same way we see Michael and Prince, and then on top of that, to be pushed into the spaces of BT in 2004, which is not early 90s BT, where there were so many avenues to get music out through BT. Now it's like 106 in Park, right?
Yeah.
Rap City. It's very specific. And on top of that, R&B was R&B in 2004. We had Sierra, Confessions album was out, Emancipation of Mimi was out, Monica had dropped some stuff. Then you have the crunk era that was coming out. Like, it was so specific. R&B and hip hop was so specific. And here you have Demita Joe, which I think is her traditional R&B album, but it was so still heavy with the pop influence. Like, what do you do with the All Night on 106 in Park? It's just not going to translate like that. Or Just a Little While. Even I Want You, which was an R&B ballad, it still was like, but there's We Belong Together. You know what I'm saying? Oh, there's Burn. Or by Usher. So it ends up putting this artist in a space where she's at like a musical identity crisis. Now she has to figure out her whole thing that she was really good at. She has to reconfigure everything again and try to figure it out, which is why 20YO, I think, sounded the way that it did. More hip hop influenced, more, quote unquote urban, in the traditional format, along with Jermaine Dupri being executive producer. But it left her in this like identity crisis for sure.
And I think like too, there's an element of like ageism that plays into that narrative as well, because by that point, wasn't she was like 37, right? Is that what they said when she did the Super Bowl? And like obviously people know, it's been documented that the older you get in the entertainment industry, but especially in the music industry, it's like people don't really know what to do with you. Like, what can you sing about as like a 37-year-old woman? Like, obviously you can sing about whatever you want, but the industry and the public put this certain pressure on you to be a certain way when you hit a certain age, just in general. And that definitely plays into, I'm sure, the identity crisis, the musical identity crisis too, that she was feeling. Like, I mean, like Mariah Carey, I feel like Emancipation of Mimi, that was something she was able to successfully do because it was like, I'm reclaiming my narrative. But like, I think because it was still so fresh and she was like in that moment of like Super Bowl, like, oh, Janet's bad. And like, I remember there was I think at one point in the documentary they showed like a journalist talking about like just like I forget exactly what she said. I'm sure I'll put in the audio in the
called her a trollop. Yeah.
This is why, like, as a tangent, for people who are like, I'm so excited for this 2000s Y2K like comeback, I'm like, no. As someone who lived in the 2000s, to just see the way like we talked about people, it was so degrading.
Yeah.
Especially if you were Black, especially if you were
Mhm.
a woman, especially if you were a woman. Like, oh my god, women got it so bad in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Janet was both. She ticked both of those boxes. It was bad.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna, I know and this is the thing too, like, and I felt this way about the Framing Britney Spears documentary, is like, now that we're kind of in this space where people are starting to revisit these like narratives about women, especially that took place in the 2000s, and like how media treated women, I just find it so hypocritical that these major corporations right now, are saying like, oh, we're so sorry, blah blah blah,
Right.
we're sorry, Britney, or like the record, like I know People Magazine like tweeted that out and posted all of these pictures during the Framing Britney Spears time, and they were trying to apologize and whatnot. And I know when this documentary came out, the Recording Academy had the nerve to quote tweet it with this documentary
Yes.
and say like, hey,
Yes.
you guys, check this out. And it's like, no, you major corporations, you played a role in the
Yeah.
demise of these women, and you played a role in the way that their narratives were told to the masses, and now you want to
Yeah.
turn around and apologize? No, too little, too freaking
Exactly.
late. Oh
Yeah. Yeah. I was particularly upset when I saw the Grammys retweet that, because it made me think, if they're retweeting it, they've probably seen it, and they
yeah.
probably okayed whatever was in the documentary, which meant they weren't really holding the Grammys accountable like they
mm,
should have.
yeah,
So that's what I was like. I was already getting more pissed about that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, there's so many people who didn't want to fuck with Janet at all. Like, she went from dropping a number one record every time she did an album since 1986. 2004 was the first time since 1986 that her album didn't go number one. That is a huge feat. That is a freaking huge feat. Um, and then she goes from a huge radio artist to being on the radio. And let's be honest, just even though that there was like some black radio stations playing her, like the wave cannot, KJLH, the wave can't, spin her enough to, offset her not being on MTV,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So it's like she just low key disappeared. If you weren't a BET watcher, she kind of disappeared. Even though she had a new album out, she had singles dropping. Like, she couldn't do anything with the singles. She couldn't do anything with the videos, like none of that. And it's the same thing that happened with 20YO. And that's the frustrating part, is people think it was just a one album era where like this was happening. Like, no, no, no. She was banned from MTV until 2008.
And
And the
that's so
first,
funny that you bring that up, because I feel like that's when Janet started to re-enter like my consciousness because wasn't around that time that's when she had like Feedback.
yeah,
So that's so like for me, the mainstream pop listener, I was like, oh, Janet has a new song. Even though
yeah,
like, yes, I was hearing Janet in the dance studio, I wasn't hearing that music on the radio. I only heard
right.
Janet in the dance studio. But then when
Yeah.
Feedback came out, it was like she was getting radio play
She
again.
was finally getting radio play, but she still didn't even have the full support of her label, because
Mm,
she ends up getting or leaving Virgin, which she had a relationship with since the 90s, late 80s, 90s.
yeah.
Um, she leaves them because she wanted more support, goes to Island Def Jam. Fucking LA Reid
Oh,
messes
LA
that up.
Reid. Oh my God. He's like the freaking Thanos of Legends, I swear. I
Facts
swear,
though.
he's like literally obsessed with like, I just want to say I worked with Michael Jackson, or I just want to say I worked with
Yeah.
Whitney Houston. I just want to say I worked with Janet, but he really doesn't like
He
care
doesn't do
about
anything.
like
Yeah.
the quality of work. He just wants to say that I worked with them. Although I'm your
Exactly.
baby tonight. Thank you, Ellie Reed.
Fire.
But I feel like that was mainly Babyface.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
L.A. Reid
That's
was the
true.
business guy. Babyface was the music guy in the face.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Um, but yeah, we didn't see her really until 2008. She was finally back on MTV, but she wasn't touring until then. So 2004 she was set to tour. Um 2006 she was supposed to tour. The record label didn't want to support it. Promoters were pulling out. She couldn't get anything. She really like she was supposed to do a lingerie line that fell through. She was supposed to do this like almost making the band type show that ended up falling through. Yes.
oh my
It was like
gosh.
find the next Janet. Like it was like
Oh,
that kind of
find the
vibe.
next, not even a girl group, like just one artist.
Yeah, I think it was like one
Damn.
artist type of thing.
Wow.
Um that ended up falling through. The Rock With You tour, it was the Rock With You tour was only a few dates. It was only like 10 dates that she ended up doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then she like fell out due to sickness. But even that tour, she pretty much did by herself.
Wow.
And then
Poor
after that,
Janet.
I know, right?
Oh my
And
God.
after that, it was like she became an indie artist for the most part. Like legit,
That's so crazy.
the number ones tour, the up close and personal tour. If you look at the up close and personal tour, she doesn't have a big budget at all. She is literally dancing on stage in jeans and a white shirt.
Damn.
Like that was her budget.
Oh my God, that makes me so upset. Like I want to cry just thinking about this. This is not fair. Oh,
It was
Janet. Oh
listen, it was
God.
super rough. And I would say for any other artist, this would have destroyed them. But
Yeah.
the power of Janet's name alone, like that's how
Yeah.
like we should remember like that's how big she was. Just the power of her name alone, she was still able to have a career.
Oh.
If it was anybody else, a Tony Braxton,
Oh yeah.
Anita
That,
Baker, like it would have been done and it would have been done. You know what I'm saying?
and I think that also kind of like that speaks though to the fact that Janet was able to cross over in such a way that she
Mm-hmm.
was in a position where like she could, still survive or like figure it out.
Right.
Whereas I feel like,
Yeah.
yes, like, obviously we respect Tony Braxton and obviously we respect Anita Baker, but I think it's fair to say that those two artists, even though, Tony, at least in the, well, she got screwed over by her record label eventually, but I feel like those two artists didn't cross over as much in the way that like Janet Jackson did with the
For sure.
masses. So
Yeah. I mean, her peers, people have said her peers were Michael and
yeah,
Prince,
yeah,
right? And Madonna.
right,
But I don't think we could compare in that way to the Black legends in respective of this
right,
conversation.
right.
But um yeah, to see how far she fell, where her biggest films were Tyler Perry films. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful because she ended up getting work, but like the music was not hitting that much that she was relying on film roles between 2004 and 2000
And Chris Malamphy
2010.
Chris Malamphy like mentioned that too
Yeah,
in the documentary when he was like, yeah, after this like incident, like she didn't really appear in a major mainstream movie. It was the Tyler, like, people love, there are people who love the Tyler Perry movies, but like that's
right.
not the same as what Janet was fully
Poetic
capable of. this
justice.
is the this is the same woman who did Poetic Justice, the same woman who did didn't she appear in what was that, the movie with Eddie Murphy?
Nutty Professor.
Okay, yes, and Eddie Murphy
Nutty
was like,
Professor too.
he's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah,
And this is the same woman too, who was like about to do the Lena Horne
Lena
biopic,
Horne.
right? Was in conversation. Boom, wiped clean. No more Janet. We
Yeah,
don't want anything to do with you.
exactly. Exactly. Like it's
That's
just
crazy.
I know. And I think again, if you didn't live through that time and you didn't remember how big Janet was, then this conversation doesn't feel impactful, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, she was a semi-big artist, but
No,
compared
she's
to
not a
Michael,
semi-big artist. She's a really big
right? She
artist.
was that girl. She was the
Yes.
girl. When we
Yeah.
talk about black pop stars, and especially women,
Yeah.
there is no black pop
Janet
star.
has to be in that conversation. Janet, like,
Absolutely.
she like she redefined what it meant to be a black pop star, a black female
Yeah.
pop star, especially when you think of like because I feel like there's like kind of two avenues you take when you're a pop star female. You either kind of go like the Whitney route, where I'm just
Yeah.
gonna stand and sing and my voice
Sing.
is what it is, or you go the Janet route where you're like, I have these fucking bops and I can dance my
Yeah.
ass off and da. Like you kind of like pick and choose. Like
Right, right.
all of like these really great female, especially black female artists who can like sing and dance at the same time, like they're daughters of Janet. They wouldn't exist
Exactly.
without Janet Jackson. Absolutely. I feel like
Exactly.
for the people who like to compare Beyonce to Michael Jackson, Janet should be in that conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know often it's often to get on Stan Twitter and be like, "Oh, this is the blueprint. This is the,"
Yeah.
and they're really not the blueprint.
No, but like she really is the blueprint.
She is quite literally the blueprint. There was nobody, and I mean this so sincerely. There was no Janet Jackson before Janet. There was versions of like, oh, there's big black pop stars like Diana Ross or a Dionne
Yeah,
Warwick,
but it's
but they
just
don't
it's so
even
different. They don't move in the same way that Janet does.
exactly. And she was the first of her kind,
Yeah. And then
for
especially too
sure.
when you like think about like, again, she comes from like MTV era. This is someone
Yeah,
who like really used the visual medium and like understood what that meant.
exactly.
And it was like this marriage of like visuals, but like great choreography. And like Janet can
Yeah,
fucking dance. Janet Jackson is the best female pop like dancer. I'm sorry, Beehive. I could hear the in the back. No. If
listen,
you look at Janet Jackson in her prime, holy, like even like still, obviously she could still
even
really
now,
move.
yeah, me
She's
now.
fantastic and amazing, but especially when you go back and you look at when Janet was like fucking jumping off chairs and like
Yeah,
she
that no
Janet is so
facts.
she's so clean. Janet's so
Yeah,
clean. No one like I feel like the real dancers who train,
that's
they
what it comes to.
they
Listen,
they know. That's why Janet never freaking left the dance studio
yeah,
scene.
well,
Like dancers all like we give it up to Janet. We have to.
absolutely.
We have to.
And I think we're just gonna get on this conversation
Now
right
we're gonna be
now
like standing
because
Janet this entire
listen,
yeah,
because
Janet.
when the conversation around dancers, like who's the top five, you know, pop dancers, I love Beyonce. And
Yeah,
Beyonce
I
is
love
good at
Beyonce
what she
too.
does. She is
And we've
great
had this
at what she
conversation
does.
before too on in the DMs.
But I know we always have all these conversations.
We're like,
But
listen,
listen, Janet can do what Beyonce
exactly,
can do.
exactly. Yes,
But Beyonce cannot pull off a Rhythm Nation.
yeah,
And
exactly.
also, when having these conversations, this kind of goes to like the Chris Brown, Michael conversation as well. Like, yes, we can have a separate conversation about who's the better freestyle dancer. Because I will say
Yeah.
Beyonce is the better freestylist, Sierra is the better freestylist. Like, I could go down the list. Janet doesn't like to freestyle. So
But that also, I feel like that's kind of like, I think, born out of like, I don't like Michael and Janet both come from this era of like, we like rehearsal. We like
yeah,
knowing like
that's true.
choreography and we like things set, not like, give me a
Yeah.
beat and like, I'm just gonna move or whatever. Like, they're not those kinds of dancers. They're very like, give us the choreography
Absolutely.
and we will perfect it and master it and boom. Like, no one can
Yeah,
execute this 5, 6, 7, 8 like we can. Like, that's their
exactly. But also too, it comes down to catalog. So when
Mm,
we're talking about Beyonce, like yeah, maybe she could outdance Janet again in a freestyle. But if we're talking about catalog, I know if you told me today, hey, Beyonce dropped a new video, it's just all dancing. I kind of know what to expect. I'm not going to be shocked by what I see. I mean, I'm still probably going to love it, and the aesthetics is probably going to shock me and stuff, but I'm not going to truly be shocked by the choreo, right? Same thing with Sierra. If you tell me Sierra dropped a video today, I know what she's gonna give me a level up situation. I know what it is. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Janet, if she drops something today, and this is not me just being a stan, but like as a dancer,
yeah. As a
if she drops
dancer,
something today, I don't know what to expect.
she has a
Like you
lot of
genuinely,
versatility as a dancer.
yes. And I would say, I'm
Oh,
not gonna
here we
really shake the
go.
table.
Here
We're
we
gonna shake the
go.
table.
Here we
I
go.
think more so than her brother.
I
Her
I can
catalog,
agree with that. I think Michael's choreography, there's like a certain vocabulary that he has, and
yes.
there's certain kind of like movements that he stays with. Like if like choreography was like we were making like a circle, he
Yeah.
stays within the same like circle. Like and he will like be like,
Oh
ooh,
yeah.
like I like this move and I like this move, but it's like still in the same circle.
It's
Whereas
very Michael-fied.
yeah, very much like Michael. Okay, see, this is the thing. Now we're having a very dancer conversation right now, but Michael's choreo is so like he likes edges. That's
He
kind of
does.
how I see Michael. He
And
likes edges and
isolations.
he likes, yeah, isolations and lines. I think with Janet, there is that element, but I think because she is a woman, she plays with her femininity in a way, and it's a
Yeah.
bit more like circular and fluid.
Yeah.
Like
And
I,
she
you even look
likes
at
the groove.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Michael's groove is like very like he like hits the shoulder. It's very
Yes.
like hard on the down, but like Janet's a bit more she can kind of play with her dynamics a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, I think that there's an element of that because she's a woman and she likes to play with like dancing hard like a guy but also being a bit more feminine in
Right.
her movement too, because I mean like especially like as dancers like when you're training like I it's been a while since I've been in the studio, but like when we were growing up sometimes they would set choreography like this is the way like the girls movement would be, and then they would say for the guys you hit, you hit, like that sort of thing. So I
Right.
feel like I think especially back then girls were given more freedom to kind of go in between. Whereas I think
Right.
before with guys, it was very much no, you're not doing the girl movement. Now I feel like
Yeah.
clearly things have changed, but
Exactly.
yeah, like and even if you look at like something like more recent Janet, like if you look at like her video for Made for Now, when I
Yeah.
was like, oh, Janet's got her dancing pants on,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you get
No, for
excited.
real. Yeah. And I think also she never stayed within a particular genre of dancing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Michael, you could see the Bob Fosse influences. He stayed in one particular kind. Same thing.
Michael sticks with what he knows.
Yes. Same thing with Beyonce, same thing with Sierra. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
They do it well.
yeah,
But Janet, there is not one era of dancing that looks very similar to the other, if
yeah.
that
Like
makes
it's
sense.
very like distinct.
Yes. So if she does a tour tomorrow and she did the exact choreography from every era, they're really distinct, right? I know she's
I
about to
completely
do
agree. Yeah,
Control, Rhythm Nation, Janet era, Velvet Rope era. Like they're very distinct from each other.
yeah,
Why, as a dancer, like if you were to tell me a Janet video is dropping, I'll sit there and be like, I don't
mm,
know what to expect.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it can literally be anything.
Right,
Um, which is why I think she is the best to ever do it,
right.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Paula
remember.
Abdul second.
Yeah, I remember like reading. There was like an gosh, I there was an article about Michael and Janet, and they said like Michael was the bigger pop star, because I think because Michael's like so business oriented and he's so like, I
Yeah.
gotta think of like the image and the iconography and da 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 da. But they said, with that being said, Janet was the better artist because there was like a willingness to play and experiment in a way that like Michael Jackson's just not built that way. Michael's like, I want to be number
He's a
one.
perfectionist.
Yeah, that and that's fine. That's not saying one is better than the other, but they both kind of operate differently.
Yeah, they move through their artistry different.
Yeah.
This is gonna make some MJ fans upset. I know this for sure. But also when we're talking about like albums, and I know Thriller is the ultimate album, but like who is the better album artist? And this has been a conversation on Twitter time and time again.
Here we go.
I know.
You know what? I just want to say, okay, Michael fans, Janet fans, we can all happily coexist. For God's sake, they're siblings, okay? Clearly, we love both of them, okay? My God.
Yeah, I mean, Michael has phenomenal albums, but I think Janet is the better album artist. Like if I were to talk about the MTV era artists, I would say Prince and Janet are the album
artists, and Michael and Whitney were the singles artists.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I can
absolutely.
see that. I see that. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Even though I think Thriller is a masterpiece, it is full of just singles.
Oh like, yeah, there's literally no cohesion to that album whatsoever. Exactly. It was just Michael Jackson being like, I want to make the biggest selling album of all time. Exactly. Give me the best songs.
Exactly. Which is why I think it's a masterpiece. But in terms of like how it flows and like, I don't ever really put on Thriller. Like that is not a go-to. I'm going to listen to Human Nature, a couple other tracks on Thriller, but who is just putting on Thriller the song like that on a Sunday in February?
Yeah. No, I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I think Janet's the better album artist.
Yeah.
For sure.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Because I like, again though, I feel like the way Janet approached being an artist was different from the way Michael approached being an artist. Like, yes, obviously like Michael is very creative and he's like clearly cares about quality and he has something to say. He wants to make a statement, but there was always that element to Michael about being very aware of like, I want to sell records. Like that that's why they don't call him the king of pop for nothing. He achieved those accolades because that's what he set out to do. Whereas with like Janet, I think because there was like this personal element of like, I want to retain control and I have something to say. She approached it. It wasn't coming from the space of like, I want to be the biggest selling pop artist of all time. It was like, I just want to make a statement with the art that I'm making. I want my art to say something.
Which I think, watch this segue. I think this ties back into the Super Bowl. Because
look at the balloons. I'm just kidding.
Here's an artist who is known for controlling her image. Right? And this is why the Super Bowl was so mind-boggling at times, because Janet was known as an artist to control her image. Hell, we didn't know she was married for 9 years, right?
Yeah.
Anytime she was quote unquote selling sex, it was very controlled. It was on the cover of a magazine. It was, it wasn't like a random paparazzi photo of her naked. It was very, very controlled. And to see then the Super Bowl happen, and now this uncontrolled image that is sexualizing her in a way that she did not want to be sexualized. In fact, we're seeing now this image of her distraught, but it's still being sexualized.
Yeah.
That was so jarring as a fan.
That's a really great point. Yeah.
but it also it goes back to this like old racist like archetype of the Jezebel,
Mm,
right? Where um this archetype came out of the antebellum South, during the antebellum South, and it basically portrays the Jezebel as this over sexualized black woman who um is kind of used to allow men to harm black women's bodies and then not have anything happen to them,
mm,
right? And so that was literally what was happening with the Super Bowl, right?
right.
Even in context with like what happened with Justin Timberlake right after he came off a stage. Like if we just sit and think about that, in the documentary they were talking about how Janet was crying right after it happened and then sobbing backstage. Multiple people have said this, right?
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake was sitting right there. He had to see the tears. He had to see her sobbing. First thing he does is come off a stage and he is gloating like within his masculinity about almost like conquering this woman who
Yeah.
is known to be like this sexual being, this super sexual being, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it plays into these like racist images. Like, how do you, as a quote unquote friend, how do you see that? See this woman crying because something happened, and your first thought is to get off stage and be like, yeah,
Right.
we're trying to give you something to talk about. Like,
Right.
in
Right.
in
Right.
that kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
in that
It's like a
space.
very like smug sort of thing.
Yes,
And I feel like I think actually the documentary did touch on some of these points, but I wish they like just went deeper. Like
in it.
if you're gonna say it, like really
Go
say it.
deep into it.
Don't
Yeah,
just like mention it for a sentence and then boom boom we're moving on. Like no, if this is the
right.
point you want to make, stand by that point. But
Exactly.
yeah, I completely agree. And especially too, like when you look at the documentary, they like included these clips of Justin talking about Janet and him being like
Hmm.
just completely objectifying her the entire time while his like
Yeah,
bandmate was trying to like actually say like actual
right,
things she did, and he was just like, yeah, and she's fine, and she's
right.
fine. Like just that's all you had to say about it's like also just in general like Justin's like desire to be in close proximity and associating himself with the Jacksons like throughout his career, I just find so like
Yeah,
but
mm, yeah.
yeah.
But it also, like, I think this context is super, super important because then you can understand why, again, the Super Bowl was so jarring
Yeah.
and so racist at the end of the day. Um, I want to read a quote really quick.
Oh, I
Um,
love it. She's gonna pull out a quote. This
pull
is
out a
story
quote.
time. She got the
Um,
receipts.
yes, from Shannon L. Holland. She wrote this amazing, amazing article. Let me see, where is it? Um, she wrote this amazing article. It's called "The Offending Breasts of Janet Jackson." You guys should read it. It talks about the Jezebel image, all of that stuff, and in context to today's time and pop culture. It's just an amazing article.
Mm,
But um, she does say this in mentioning the Jezebel archetype. Um, Hold on. She says the Jezebel image not only justified white men's sexual exploitation of African women, but also absolved white men of blame and sustained the sanctity of white masculinity by depicting African women as temptress who use their sexuality as a means to manipulate white men.
mm.
Now,
And
this
that's
is
just literally
super
exactly the narrative they were trying to
exactly what
paint about
happened.
Janet. I wish they played that part up more in the documentary, but they didn't.
Boom, they didn't. And we see it And here's why I'm so upset with Justin Timberlake, because people paint him as this like non-aggressor. Like, oh, he just didn't know. But we see
Right.
him understanding racial politics by the second day. He then plays into this full Jezebel stereotype. I didn't know what was going on. Um, I like it was kind of her idea to do this, and now we're painting this picture of this Black woman
Right.
who is like, oh, poor Justin Timberlake. He was hoodwinked and bamboozled by
Right.
this temptress. Like,
see, and that's the thing. It's like in the documentary, and it still prevails to this day in a documentary that was made in like what 2020, 2021, whatever.
yeah,
It's just these white people, these corporations that are mostly run by white people, trying to absolve themselves from any sort of like accountability
exactly.
at all, and
Right,
painting, Janet, who is not even part of the documentary, can't really speak for herself in any way, um,
right.
trying to paint this narrative that she had like manipulated this
Yes,
this entire like performance. Like, oh, there was a conversation that took place between only Janet and her wardrobe person and
right,
Justin, and it was only like a minute 30 conversation. No one knows what was said. Janet and the wardrobe person, like, we did a dress rehearsal run and we cleared it, but then Janet and the stylist, they did something that we had no clue.
right.
It's just like, I don't know what you want us to do with that, but like, this is what you're trying to do, is clearly show that like Janet was trying to like one up all of you in some way
Exactly.
and manipulate this whole thing, which is why
Right.
I was just so confused with the tone of this documentary. From like, I thought this
Exactly.
documentary was supposed to be pro Janet, but
Ex- exactly though. Exactly. But it goes back to, because I know there's probably some person who's like, why is talking about race like this, or the Jezebel archetype, why is this important? It's because you can now understand this better.
yeah,
With all of this, um, like understanding this archetype, this made it easier for the masses to turn a blind eye
mm,
when disciplining this Black woman.
mm,
She was out of line. She was a manipulator. She deserves it,
right,
right? And
yeah,
when you don't understand that context, it's easy to just be like, oh, she planned it because she had a nipple piercing. Like, also, let me go back. The contemporary Jezebel archetype um, is kind of, even though it has like the back history of its traditional meaning, in contemporary form, it was kind of used as like um, an image of sexual independence and autonomy,
mm,
right?
right.
But with this archetype, it can so easily be manipulated.
Mm.
So at one
If that
point
person, if the person is not in control of her narrative,
of
when
the
she
narrative,
when she loses control is when things go a bit
exactly.
haywire.
So we see it as sexual autonomy. Like, let's look at the nipple piercing. We see it as sexual autonomy in 96, 97, when the Velvet Rope album drops.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, this is amazing. She's showing pictures the way that she wants to of her nipple piercing. But now we don't want that image. We need to show her as like a deceiver. So now it's the narrative is, well, she has a nipple piercing, so she wanted to show it.
yeah,
She's doing it on purpose,
right.
simply because she has a nipple piercing that has been there for years.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
right. Yeah,
It
yeah, totally.
it again allows us to bypass her humanity, how she was actually feeling. There should be no question of whether this was an accident or not. She was crying coming off stage, sobbing in the back. That should
Right.
be it. Like, that should
Yeah,
say everything.
right.
But here we are.
Still in like 2021, this documentary can't figure out where they stand if Janet had had designed all of this to happen or not. That's why I'm so confused exactly what story this documentary was trying to tell. And I do understand to a certain extent, it's like you want to present the information as is, non-biased opinion, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you only presented one side of the argument. And I understand, again, like it's hard because Janet's not participating, but it's like, well, why don't you get more people that were part of her camp to kind of like fill in the holes for us then, versus like, oh, Janet fled the scene and we don't know what happened.
Right. And if you don't have that story, don't make it. Period.
Yeah.
You know? But it goes back to, again, Justin Timberlake and his role in everything. Because of this Jezebel setup, he was absolved for almost everything, right? He was very smug about how he did everything. But I want to go back and just touch on a few things that he did over the years in relation to the Super Bowl. Get ready, because you're gonna have a lot of editing for this.
I already knew in my head. I was like, okay, I know for sure this is staying in.
I got the clips on a lot. I got you. But I'm not gonna include what he said right after he got off stage. I mean, you probably included. We know that the first night he came off stage, he sounded one way. The second day, he sounded completely different. The Grammys, he was very smug about his apology. Not going to be talking about those. So the first one is the 2006 MTV apology. This was the first time we had really heard from Justin in 2 years. You know, the Justified era was kind of done by 2004. 2006, he was about to drop his sophomore album. And honestly, he was only apologizing because he needed to get in good graces with the Black community, because he was dropping a full R&B record. And Justin Timberlake is a little weird. He wanted to be like the Tina Marie of his time, right? Like he wanted to be this white artist who was just so fully accepted by the Black community. And he often would try to pander to the Black community in various ways, whether it's him in cornrows or him, saying in interviews, "Oh, I'm a Black man in a white man's body," saying stuff like that. Like,
and even just like the way he talks too.
That part, it was just, yeah.
Oh, it's weird.
Cultural appropriation at its best,
yeah,
for sure. But he's saying this largely because he wants to be on BET. He wants to be in these Black spaces. He actually probably needs to be in these Black spaces for his album to really be successful, But in this MTV apology, he doesn't sound genuine, in my opinion. He's very much aware that he only got, in his words, 10% of like all the backlash. And my favorite part is he calls Black people ethnic. And I'm just like, sir, what? In 2006? But okay. Then in 2006, and this is where I stopped fucking with Justin Timberlake. This is what drew the line. The diss track. The diss track against Prince and Janet. The song is called Give It To Me. And it was made after two key things happened. Janet went on Oprah and she talked about the Super Bowl. Honestly, it was like her first time really talking about it and talking about her relationship to Justin. And she basically says that she's not fucking with Justin like that on the Oprah show. Prince then comes out and was asked, Sexy Back had just dropped. Prince was asked about Sexy Back.
Sexy Never Left.
Prince, yes, and Prince like fashion. And then Justin Timberlake instead of like taking the L like he should have done, because these are two Black legends. Like,
yeah, you're not in the same league, buddy, as these people. Have a seat.
Like, low-key side note, this is another reason why I like lost respect for him. The audacity for you to come for Black legends the way
Uh,
you did. Like, first of all, you're a guest in these Black spaces.
right. Yeah, totally.
And then not only that, you come for the legends of that space. And not only that, the legends that you take from,
Yeah. Yeah.
like make it make sense.
It's like the audacity.
The audacity, the caucasity,
Yeah.
honestly.
Oh my God.
The caucasity of the whole situation. But yeah, he ends up making a diss track. Um and I know there's some people who still think it wasn't about Janet. He clearly was talking about Prince, but let's roll to 2007 at the Rolling Stones party where both or three, Nelly Furtado, Timbaland, and Justin Timberlake are singing "Give It to Me" live.
Oh yeah, because
And
those
he
three were
actually
always together
says,
during that time.
I know, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
were making fabulous music, unfortunately.
Yeah. The
Had me in a chokehold.
promiscuous girl.
Yes.
And remember like the video for
Yes.
promiscuous girl, and even Justin
Yeah.
was in the video like towards the
Yep.
end. Yeah.
Yep.
Mid 2000s.
The high life right
Yeah.
there. But yeah, they were performing Give It to Me, and Justin actually says Janet's name in the little clip, calling Janet out. This is 2007, 3 years after the Super Bowl. Mind you, his career is blowing up at this point. Like,
Yeah,
he
because it's like
is,
Sexy Back, Timbaland,
yes.
like we're producing with
Hmm.
working with
My
Timbaland a
love.
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Justin Timberlake. And then he has the duet with Beyonce.
Yeah.
He's exploding. Um, and then this next one, the 2008 ESPY Awards, really, I didn't know about this clip until 2 years ago, and it really shook me to my core. So he's at the ESPYS, he's doing this whole thing um, about how he loves sports, and at a certain point, he talked about the Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
He throws up Janet's picture again. Go back to the conversations that we had about the Jezebel archetype, all of that stuff, and the fact that Janet didn't have control of her image.
Right. That's the key thing.
Throws up this image of her clearly upset. It's the moment where she looked down.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and he makes fun of the picture
Oh my
for
God.
approximately 45 seconds. Get this, with a black choir behind him, mimicking black church vibes.
Wow, that's so disrespectful. Oh my God.
Listen, and of course the audience is cackling. It's
But
that
is
one.
the audience, what is the makeup of this audience? It's like
Um,
probably a lot of men.
a lot of men, a lot of black men.
Oh,
It's the sports. It's sports. So
yeah.
there's tons of black folks in the audience.
And they're
I
like
mean,
laughing too, or like,
there was a lot of laughter. I mean, there was the initial shock of him throwing up Janet's
God.
picture. It was like, and then it was laughter. But if you see the clip in full, you can find this on YouTube. There's like a 9-minute version of the performance. But it was really, really shocking because, again, um, it goes back to racism. Like, how is this white boy able to use all these black situations, like, to make fun of a black woman who is our pop icon, who is
Right.
our black legend?
Totally.
And it's okay. And you find that okay.
And it speaks to his privilege too, that what year is this? Is, you said what, 2000?
2008.
Okay, so it speaks to the privilege too, that in 2008 Justin Timberlake can reference the situation, laugh, get a laugh, completely fine, whereas like Janet, like God forbid she even like references this, or like, you
Yeah,
know, the narrative around Janet and her reception to engaging in a conversation about the Super Bowl is going to be very different compared to
exactly.
Justin, and that speaks to his privilege in this whole situation.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because there is a video right now that's circulating. I will send it to you. But there's a video right now that's circulating of Janet 3 years after the Super Bowl having an interview about why did I get married? I don't know if you've seen it. And the anchor
Oh
is
yeah, I've seen it.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And I'm glad Tyler Perry was there to like kind of
Brush it. Like don't keep
yeah,
it moving.
it was just like we forget how cringy those moments are.
Yeah.
Oh, let me bring up one more thing. Um, I think people need to go back and watch a lot of interviews from that era because Justin Timberlake didn't get any of the abuse. It was like straight harassment that Janet was getting. If you watch the who's old dude? Oh my goodness, David Letterman.
Oh
Watch the
yeah, that
David
one's pretty
Letterman
bad too.
interview. At one point in that interview, she is like trying to tell him to change the subject, and the crowd boos her for wanting to change the subject. Like to get that level again, Black legend, pop legend. She is like beyond Black legend, but pop legend being treated this way. But that yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing. Two more. 2011, Justin Timberlake made this song with Free Soul called Role Model, where he not only mentions the Super Bowl yet again in the video right after he drops the Super Bowl line, he shows a white chick flashing the camera. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty intense. Not intense, but like disrespectful. It's pretty disrespectful. And then, of course, the 2018 Super Bowl, where he not only disrespected Janet, but he disrespected Prince. That shit was a hot mess. Still hate that performance. But
Underwhelming like this documentary.
yes, facts. But what was really interesting about the Super Bowl was the fact that he was able to do the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
Not only able to do the Super Bowl,
He
but
included that
perform
song.
perform the song. And he performed it up into the line, I'm gonna have you naked by the end of the song.
He like
And
says
then
like
laughed.
yeah, he like pauses and he goes, ah, he like looks at the camera. It's like you are so smug.
Yeah. So like at this point, if you still think that Justin Timberlake in 2021, you think he's this innocent guy who just didn't know, I'm sorry for you. Bless your heart. And that is a southern way of saying, girl, get your life together.
And also too, like the fact that when, you know, after framing Britney, people were like coming for Justin. See, I feel like there isn't this same energy of we need to come for Justin after this documentary in comparison to
Right.
framing Britney Spears. And I just think that just speaks to the quality of, you know, that versus this. But
That
like
part.
when Justin apologized, he not only apologized to Britney, he apologized to Janet. So clearly, this guy knows that what he did to Janet, even though Janet wasn't at all part of the Britney conversation,
Yeah.
clearly he knows that what he did to Janet as well was not right.
Yeah. And I feel like that apology, like I don't like that apology because he only apologized to the two because he was getting backlash.
Right.
He would not have said, I don't think he would have said anything
Yeah.
if everything was peaches and cream.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm,
But yeah, Justin's trash. This documentary was kind of trash.
yeah.
Um, it will forever be fuck Justin Timberlake in my book.
Well, I mean, were there any other points that you wanted to make about
No.
you got through all your paper?
I did. I got
They're
through
all
most of it. But I would say if you guys really want to see or understand a lot of the details of what happened, there is a thread on Twitter right now um, by what's her Twitter handle? Miss Shannon. MZSHANNONN. Miss Shannon. She has a whole Twitter thread with details, calling out
Clips.
CBS clips, CBS execs. Like she she is spilling the tea to the point where she spilled tea on her last page about Janet being banned from the 2020 Grammys, and her page got taken down.
Oh shit.
She's feeling like for real tea. So
Damn.
go over that way and check out the her Super Bowl thread.
Wow. Well, I honestly feel like I'm looking at the other segments that we had planned, but I feel like there's no need
We took
to.
care of it.
We took care of everything.
We
So
took care of everything.
I guess, okay, I want to ask two questions.
Okay.
First, with all of this being said, what do you think really happened during the Super Bowl performance?
I honestly think they were trying to do something and messed up, because up until that point, like Janet didn't need to do that kind of. She didn't need to do any of that.
Right.
She was at that point, what, 30 years into her career. Like she she didn't need to do anything. I think she was just trying to give us an extra moment.
Yeah.
And like the documentary said, there wasn't any time, or I think honestly Justin may have been too tired to really comprehend what was going on, because they said that he touched down 45 minutes before the show,
Right.
and then like just got there. So I just think it was just like a mishap for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I don't know how you could still watch that moment and think Janet had masterminded that. That looks
Yeah,
like a woman that was caught off guard. I did not plan on
exactly.
that happening. So I don't know why
Exactly.
we're still trying to perpetuate this narrative that she had planned this thing the
Yeah,
entire time.
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I completely agree.
Well, and then I guess my last question is, do you think this documentary helped the redemption of Janet narrative?
No. I mean, yes. No. No. I don't know. Like
I think it's
it
more
was
so like
just,
it's just there. And
yeah.
like I'm happy that it like I like it's good that this is like brought up, like
Mhm.
it's brought up in the sense of like don't forget that this happened, but
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if this documentary necessarily like cleared or like absolved Janet in any way or made us
Right.
feel like see like this like I don't know, it just kind of exists.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Especially because like you said, like you stated before, there really wasn't a specific goal in the narrative.
We
Like it
thought
was
there was a
just
goal, but
a, and it was all over the place,
yeah,
and I like it was clear people were lying. It was clear that there was white fragility going on.
right.
Like
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I don't no. No. Yeah, no, at the end of the day. I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Um yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
Unfortunately.
with that being said, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Oh my
But we,
gosh.
we really are signing off right now. So
Yes. Happy
um,
Indigenous Day.
yeah. I hope you guys like had a great, insightful listen to this episode. I hope you learned a lot. If you want to watch that documentary, we're not stopping you, but maybe go in with lower expectations than what we had. Look
Facts.
out for Janet's documentary coming out January 2022.
Yes.
No date as of yet, but I'm excited for that documentary.
I
And
am too.
well, Angie, what are your socials before we leave?
Twitter at Poetry Soul, and then I'm gonna just drop my YouTube in there.
Go
Sleepy
ahead.
Nerd Productions.
Awesome. And if you want to follow the podcast, we're at Diva Dailies Pod on Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at INN_MHO. Honestly, you should just follow that account because I never promote the podcast on the Diva. I don't post over there. It's too much work. Honestly, I'm like debating on deleting it because it's like just there. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you want to watch like the full conversation, because I'm sure I probably cut a good chunk of this out, you can find this episode on YouTube. It should be up 2 or 3 days after the original, the streaming version is uploaded. So check it out. Probably on my YouTube channel, in my humble opinion, but probably will be making a separate YouTube channel for Diva Dailies to post all of the conversations there, so people aren't confused with the brand. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, well. I guess I have to end it now. As always, thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, divas, I'm every woman. Osama bin Laden probably really likes this song.
That's still crazy to me.
I can't believe you
Osama
didn't
bin
know
Laden.
that. Wow.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
Stay on Twitter like every now and then. They love bringing that up.